Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became a police officer. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Blackwolfhunting from AO3. So let's start the video. SWAT hero. Deku chapter text. He stared at the picture that was hanging up on the Outstanding Policeman Awards, taking in the familiar chubby and smiling face of 𝗵𝘃𝗲 that had started as a police officer and then, when his abilities and capabilities became so apparent to the world, was allowed to take the hero license exam and become a pro hero. One of only a handful of police officers to do so, and then the most memorable one of them all. Izuku sighed as he ran a hand over his face as he turned away from the wall that held the pictures of police officers that had gone on to be pros instead. One day, Izuku, one day, he whispered to himself as he returned to the bullpen, where he was unceremoniously tripped by one of the other officers and then had a hot cup of coffee dumped over his head by a sergeant. "Get up, rookie. Go and clean this mess up before I write you up." The sergeant barked at him, and all Izuku could do was get up and do as told. Luckily, he kept extra uniform shirts in his locker, so that would be an easy fix, just like mopping up the floor. "Hey, look, the quirkless loser is still here." Izuku sighed as he already knew what was coming. The same shit as at the academy, where all the quirk cadets ganged up on him and beat the shit out of him, just like the rest of his life had been. "Let's remind him why he should quit while he's still ahead," another said as they surrounded Izuku, his uniform shirt already half unbuttoned and his face turning red from the hot coffee dumped on him. Looks like he was about to gain some new bruises along with the burns. Tsukachi frowned as he was called in the chief's office, wondering what he could have possibly done to have Tsurugami's attention on him. He hadn't done anything as of recent that he could think of, not at least since the whole All Might reveal thing and then trying to set up a task force to hunt down All for One when he escaped during that fight. Man, there was a lot more going on too that he wasn't even going to think of. Some of it being the newly graduated heroes that were now on the scene that had been part of villain attack after villain attack. It was all annoying and driving him up a hill. They were just lucky that some of their stings and operations had turned out some fruit, even with the loss of some of the heroes and officers on the scene. Thoughts of Ryukyu, Midnight, Snipe, and Ms. Joke all came to mind, lost to the ill-fated operations against Yakuza, Hero Killer, and the League. He shook his head as he turned back to where he was now standing in front of the chief's office and knocked politely but firmly. It was a long second before a bark caught his attention. "Come in." The inspector didn't waste time as he opened the door and entered the room, taking in the second figure that was sat hunched in a chair in front of the chief. "Ah, Tsukachi, I'm glad you arrived. We have much to discuss with our newest officer here." The muzzle of the chief twitched as if to smile but held off. Tsukachi nodded his head as he stepped forward and closer to the officer, turning so he could take the other in fully, only to come to a full halt as he stared in horror. The kid was no older than 19 at the oldest. And that was pushing it because the police academy didn't graduate anyone under 19 in the first place, but looked like he could be 16 or 17. Chubby cheeks from baby fat, short and wiry, but the inspector could see muscle laden underneath his uniform. Green hair that was cut into an undercut, curls poking out wildly on top, and large watery green eyes that looked absolutely exhausted. The worst part of the kid, though, was the fact that he was covered in cuts, bruises, bandages, and he was pretty sure that large red mark running from his forehead down to his right cheek was actually a burn. His uniform was impeccable and straight, but the state of his skin told a different story. "What the hell is this?" he questioned as he turned to the chief, eyes wide as he waved an arm at the kid, who flinched harshly at his movement. "Tell me that whoever did this is currently sitting in a jail cell or is at least fired," he growled out. "Unfortunately, they are not." Tsurugami sighed as he laced his fingers together, turning to look the inspector in the eyes. "Because of unfortunate circumstances, that is no one's fault." Those last few words were rather enunciated with a stern look sent the kid's way. "We are unable to prosecute the abuse properly, which is why you're here. Give me the names, sir. I'll make sure that they end up in jail permanently for attacking one of our own," he promised as he pulled out his notebook, ready to get the names and throw the assholes into an interrogation room. Maybe he'd get Aizawa in on this. That man was always up for interdepartmental cleanup. The officer snorted as Tsurugami shook his head. "If only I could give you the names, it would be so much easier." He gave a huff before continuing. "Unfortunately, because Officer Midoriya is quirkless, we cannot press any charges against the offending individuals." The inspector's entire body stiffened at that. "Quirkless?" he questioned with a stiff tone, watching as the officer's entire being seemed to stiffen in anticipation. What he was anticipating didn't take a genius to figure out. Fucking quirk discrimination is the reason for not throwing those assholes into jail. For real, he just about snarled as he realized what was happening. Unfortunately, the chief nodded as he picked up a file and then held it out to the inspector. Due to the laws created back when quirks first became a thing, We cannot prosecute them when it's a quirkless individual accusing them. An old law that's useless now. Quirked individuals outnumber quirkless 10 to 1. More than that actually, he exclaimed before rubbing a hand over his face. Go figure. He sighed before looking back up with a tired look. So if I'm not taking those assholes into custody, why am I here? He took the file as he opened it up, blinking at the profile of the officer off to the side. Take a good look at that file and tell me I'm in the wrong in calling you into my office. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 settled back into his chair and laced his fingers over his chest, watching in smug satisfaction as the inspector ran through the pages in the file quickly, eyes widening as he went. Well, what do you think? Why the hell is he still an officer? Was questioned, startling the greenette to finally look at the inspector fully, eyes wide and mouth dropped in surprise. Kid could have been swept up by Nedzu if the rat knew about him. Not to mention he's already passed the inspector's exam. Why the hell is he an officer? Chief and inspector meet eyes. One narrowed while the other raised a brow. Again, he's quirkless, and it was decided he would be too much of a danger to those once seen if he was to be bumped up to inspector. The chief could only give a shrug of his shoulders. He passed the test, the gun handling course, and he was about to outthink veterans in the obstacle course. He stated as he continued to wave the file around. He's shown that he can handle what an inspector might be called in to do, except for all the write-ups and disciplinary actions held against him. The chief pointed out, and the inspector was forced to turn to that page, a scowl overtaking his face as he looked at multiple write-ups and notes of disciplinary action. He's been here for a year. There's no way 2 of these, let alone all of them, are true. He huffed as he tossed the file on the desk. So what's the plan then? He's still sitting there instead of walking out without a job after all. Well, Officer Midoriya was just sent to me today after another write-up for disrespecting his uniform and disregarding sergeant's orders. The chief explained calmly as he sat forward, ignoring the flinch from said officer. It has become clear that he cannot be left with regular officers and sergeants, as he will just end up in more trouble, caused by himself or otherwise. But we can't just let him go. He waved a hand at the file once more in clear intent. He's too good at everything that's been thrown at him. We need to keep him on board, which is why I'm assigning him to you as a probationary officer, with him being under your command only and responding only to your or my orders unless otherwise specified. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 stated calmly. You'll use this time, about a year's worth, to train him into a proper inspector before I promote him. You're one of our best, 𝗬𝗏𝗁. I want you to make him even better than you, he stated with narrowed eyes. That works for me. The inspector nodded as he turned to take in the flushed countenance of said officer, still watching the two talk and with his eyes seemingly wider only. You hear that, rookie? You're with me. The young man's jaw snapped closed as he snapped to his feet and saluted. Yes, sir, he exclaimed with his eyes looking a little lighter, a little more full of excitement. All right, report to me in the morning in full uniform. You'll be helping me on some of my cases. With that, 𝗬𝗏𝗁 dismissed the officer, and Midoriya could only give the older man a small smile and a nod before he left, saluting the 2 higher-ups. I really hope this works out. Same here. That kid is too smart to just have us let him go. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 ran a hand over his muzzle in exhaustion. The only reason he's here is because of a recommendation in his file that's been proven true, along with a character letter from the same person. I saw that he had one, but the name was blacked out. 𝗬𝗏𝗁 turned back to the file again, still disbelieving of everything that was in said file for one young man, one that hadn't turned even 20 yet. Who was it? I'm only going to tell this to you because you know the man personally. The chief leaned forward seriously. So keep it to yourself otherwise. All Might gave the recommendation and letter of character. So, all of this is just from some of your cases? Izuku questioned as he looked over the files. Brows furrowed as he recognized some of the incidents in them. This doesn't seem right, he said as he looked up at the inspector. Some of these look like incidents that were taken care of by heroes. Some of them are. 𝗬𝗏𝗁-senpai agreed with a nod of his head. I help several heroes fill out reports and then file them for them. That way they actually get done, he explained before taking a deep gulp of his coffee. But I thought heroes were required to turn in their reports to their agencies so that they could file for any insurance claims or report any possible injuries or fatalities to the commission. Izuku quickly read over an incident report, almost freaking out when he realized it was one done by Mind Jack, the underground hero. Normally, yes, you're right, but these ones are ones done by solo heroes or underground heroes that I work with personally. I don't just do any heroes reports, I do very specific ones. He pulled one over and opened it up to show some of the details. This one is done by Earphone Jack. She works as a Twilight hero under Present Mike. She sent it over to me to look over because of the interference she experienced from several officers on duty. I'm only looking this one over because of Present Mike. Otherwise she'd have to send it into the commission to have it looked over and several other steps. So you take out the middleman to help them out, Izuku realized with disbelief. But doesn't that take a lot more time than you already have? I mean, you're our head inspector in this area. I'm sure you have a lot more cases than most, which you aren't wrong about. but this helps out heroes and it also keeps me up to date on what's happening out on the streets when I'm busy with something else, which means more information and maybe even links to cases you already are working on, which was a brilliant way to gather information to begin with. That's right. So what I'm going to do first is show you how to do these reports properly and what information to pull out of them. So if you have questions, ask them. Which was just one way to say that 𝗧𝗏𝗁 was going to have Officer Midoriya help him out with his work and hopefully finish it a lot sooner than before. But this was a valid way of teaching the rookie how to get information from other sources, even if it meant more work for them. Yes, sir, Izuku exclaimed as he pulled the Mind Jack report closer so he could start learning. Ah, Eraserhead, good to see you again, 𝗧𝗏𝗁 said as he walked over to where the underground hero was standing casually, hands in his pockets. How's the night treating you so far? Fine, the hero huffed as he looked over the detective's shoulder and looking at the green-haired officer following close behind. Full uniform except for the hat, a nervous but excited look on his face, and his hands holding onto a notepad as if ready to write out notes. What's with the puppy? My newest mentee. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 smirked as he motioned for the younger man to come stand next to him. This is Officer Midoriya. I'm hoping to train him into my successor at the station. He's got potential too. Officer, this is Underground Eraserhead, the greatest hero ever to exist. The officer exploded with excitement, startling both men for different reasons. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 because he had never seen the other act this alive in the 2 weeks they'd been working together, and Eraser because he wasn't supposed to be known or called the best hero ever. He's got more capture rates than even All Might did, more than Hawks even, and he causes the least amount of damage when he's working. The older men could only stop and stare at the officer for a long silent moment. Midoriya quickly hunched inwards as the smile on his face faded and he began to sink into himself. His eyes turned shadowed and he looked at the older men anxiously. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 broke the silence with a snort. I should have figured you'd be a hero fanboy. He chuckled with a shake of his head. But yes, all of that's true. Eraserhead is also my main contact when it comes to the underground scene. He'll be the one who will get our information from and call in when we need to go through with undercover work, he explained calmly. Even with the fake leg and eye patch? Izuku questioned with a frown and tilt of his head. I thought after the whole war a couple of years ago that you would have retired from the front lines. His eyes widened as he noticed the frown on the hero's face. Not to be disrespectful or anything, he exclaimed, waving his hands around in the air hurriedly. Eraserhead sighed before reaching up a hand to adjust the eye patch he wore. Normally you would be right, but a lot of the work I do doesn't require stealth. I just gather information from those underground and will normally play the buyer or victim for stings, which is why we're here. Eraserhead has gathered some information for us and we needed to meet him before we moved forward with the investigation. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 cut in before they could get off track. So, were you able to find the main leader for the drug? I was able to, yes. You were also right, it's Trigger they're trying to peddle. Eraser explained calmly as he pulled out a thumb drive and then a syringe of a black substance. I don't know how they got the recipe, but they're kicking it out at an alarming pace, and not for a whole much, which means distribution is going fast and we're going to have to deal with the consequences. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 sighed as he took both items and settled them into his own pockets. Thanks, Eraserhead. Keep track of what you can. Dealers and distribution centers, all the normal things. Let us know what's happening as soon as possible. Will do. Eraser nodded before turning to Midoriya. It was nice to meet you, kid. Make sure you stick with 𝗧𝗏𝗁. He'll show you the ropes without too much of a problem. Yes, sir. That's the plan. Midoriya nodded firmly as his shoulders relaxed some and his spine straightened out. Good. I hope to work with you more in the future. With that, the hero disappeared into the shadows, making no sound as he did. The two stood there for a long moment before Midoriya let out a long sigh. He's so cool. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 could only snort at his mentee. Izuku looked up at the gigantification quirk user from where he stood with 𝗧𝗏𝗁, kinda sad that he had foregone wearing the hat as he had to use a hand to block out the sun to see what was happening. Not that I don't think this is awesome, but why are we, here? He asked as he winced at the explosions happening around the villain. It looks like the hero has it. Yeah, normally I would agree with you, 𝗧𝗏𝗁 said as he stood with Izuku at the police line, watching as the rookie hero flew around the villain with his explosion. But there was confirmation that this villain used Trigger, which is why he's 15 the size of what his quirk normally allows. 𝗧𝗏𝗁 handed over a file to the officer. 3 months had passed since he had gotten Midoriya as a mentee and he honestly was enjoying it. The kid had seriously loosened up around him and now had no problem rattling off theories or thoughts that could lead them to closing a case. Some of the leaps in logic the kid made astounded the inspector, sometimes making him trip up and stop the other to explain the logic behind them. Most of them were always right and had led to closing some pretty difficult cases in the last few months, even coming close to catching the hero killer a couple of times, only missing him because the heroes had ignored the officer's advice on working in teams instead of individually. They were lucky they had only been injured and not killed. But otherwise, 𝗬𝗏𝐺 had little to complain about as he looked at the latest user of Trigger. The only things really was the still lacking in self-confidence the other suffered, and then when the other acted rashly, putting himself in harm's way. "Ah, I see," Izuku muttered as he looked at the file. Normally the villain was only able to add about 2 to 10 feet on his height, along with minor strength augmentation, but with Trigger it had caused them to grow to 10 stories. "Do we have a line with Hero Dynamite?" he asked quietly as he looked up at his superior with clear nerves. He still was pretty scared of the other hero but would put up with him if he had to. "I mean, yeah, sure." 𝗂𝐽𝐻 was much bigger in the shoulders and was so much taller too, over 6 feet, and so muscled. The tank top with the orange X had always been favored by the boy, as well as the black combat pants and boots, though he thought the green grenade gauntlets were just too much. Really, did he have to have them so big? "We do. Why, what did you think of?" 𝗬𝗏𝐺 questioned as he held out a radio to the other. He had been making the younger one make calls over the radio lately, trying to build up his self-esteem the best he could. It says here that whenever the villain used his quirk before, the backs of his calves would ache during so. "I think if 𝗂𝐽𝐻 hits his Achilles, then he'll go down easily," he explained as he tried to push the radio back to the older man. Maybe you should." "No, that sounds reasonable, especially since Dynamite and the villain are causing too much damage as is." He holds the radio back out to the other just as a gigantic hand knocked into a building and busted part of the building. "Make it fast." Izuku could only gulp as he looked down at the radio that was now sat in his hands and then back up to where a familiar yell of dye and blonde hair could be seen. Could he really do this? Even though they hadn't actually seen each other since middle school, Izuku still highly doubted that 𝗂𝐽𝐻 had changed at all, but he had an order and he kinda had to follow it. It wasn't even half a year into his probation yet. He couldn't screw up now. 𝗂𝐽𝐻, me numb." He stuttered as he held the button down on the radio. "Who the fuck is interrupting me now?" A crackle over the radio as the hero responded. "Can't you see I'm fucking busy right now? Shitty cops or fucking whoever this is. Stay the fuck out of my way while I get shit done." Explosions around the villain's head caused a roar and another chunk of a building was taken out, by the head of the villain this time. "But haven't you noticed how, the villain hasn't us used their feet?" Izuku tried to lead the other into the realization he had, hoping that maybe that would work, but this was 𝗂𝐽𝐻, who he knew was stubborn to eternity and back. There was no way in hell he was going to listen to anyone no matter what. "Fuck off. I'm busy, you piece of shit." The scream came back and this time there was a click, indicating the hero had shut his comms off. "I'm getting him rode up for that." 𝗬𝗏𝐺 sighed as he took the radio back. "We'll just have to wait until he's done," he decided as he leaned up against his car to watch, grimacing at each property damage caused by either hero or villain. Izuku gulped but looked at the villain, specifically the area where his Achilles heel tendon was. "Hey, 𝗬𝗏𝐺-senpai, do you have rubber bullets?" he asked as he pulled out his gun, popping out the clip a moment later. "Yeah, in the trunk of the car," the detective said as he watched the other put his clip into his vest before moving to the back of the car. "Why, what are you planning?" His brows furrowed as the other pulled out the clips of rubber bullets. "Well, his Achilles tendon is right there." Izuku waved a hand where the feet were firmly planted on the ground. The villain doesn't move his feet or legs a whole lot due to the pressure already put on them from stretching his form. Trigger has made that weakness even more obvious than it already was before. He checked the clip over before nodding and putting it into his gun. He was lucky he even had one. Mostly thanks to 𝗬𝗏𝐺, who had to go and fight for his weapon, citing that if he was working with the inspector then he needed something to help watch the older man's back. "An awesome senpai, which you tried to tell Dynamite." "Yeah, I know. That doesn't explain what you're doing though," he stated as he stood up straight and watched the other walk closer to the scene. Well out of hitting range as the villain refused to move from his current spot but was holding up against all of Dynamite's attacks without a problem, swatting at the hero like he was a fly. "Well, since 𝗂𝐽𝐻 won't listen, I'm going to take this into my own hands." He moved steadily, watching the fight and then calculating which way the villain would fall, nodding his head when he realized it was clear streets. "All right, 𝗬𝗏𝐺, be ready to detain," he stated as he held the gun up and aimed. 𝗬𝗏𝐺 watched in awe as the rookie took aim and fired several shots, all hitting their mark on the villain's upper heel where the tendon was located. He watched as the villain screamed in pain before collapsing onto the empty street behind him and then started to shrink down. "Quick, surround him and have those quirk-nullifying cuffs at the ready," he yelled as he ran forward with several other officers, not realizing that Midoriya hadn't followed him until he could hear Dynamite screaming. He turned to see said hero screaming Midoriya's face and his own darkened in anger as he began to march towards the two. Back up Dynamite. He had it covered and controlled, only to have a shitty cop interfere with his job. His job, not theirs but his. What the ever-living. He starts to scream as he lands in front of the cop that was obviously the one to shoot as he still had his gun out, only to come to a complete halt as dull green eyes stare at him. Deku, he growled as he stomped over to the idiot quirkless wonder he had thought he'd left behind in middle school. What the fuck do you think you're doing here, shit stain? He idiot looks off to the side where Bakugo knows the villain is being arrested by the cops at this very moment before looking back at him. I tried to tell you that. I'm going for his 𝐻𝐻𝐼 Achilles. I didn't need your fucking help. Bakugo snarled as he interrupted the nerd, recognizing the voice from the radio earlier, especially with all the stuttering. I've never needed a quirkless fucker's help. Not now or before now. He continued as his volume began to grow louder. You fucker, I don't know where you get off on telling me how to do my fucking job, when you're just a fucking quirkless wannabe hero that never made it into backup dynamite. 𝐒𝐭𝐽𝐲 came screeching in between the two, pushing the hero back away from Deku with a furious look in his eyes. I don't know what you think you're doing, but verbally assaulting an officer is rights for a write-up, not to mention suspension, he warned just as he pulled out his notebook. Fucking quirkless Deku isn't worth much and none of those will hold because he's a fucking quirkless. Bakugo snarled as he glared over the inspector's shoulder at said individual. You can try and stick shitty citations and fucking tickets on me for it, but they won't stick. He already knew, especially after he had tried to get a few heroes fined for ignoring quirkless civilians that had been in danger. Just more fucking work for him. Except he's my mentee now, which means you insult him, you insult me. 𝐒𝐭𝐲 stated with a righteous smirk on his face. So, you want to continue verbally assaulting someone under my care and guidance? I'll write you up for insulting myself. No one will believe otherwise either. Fuck, which was true. Fuck you, he snapped as he turned to walk away. We're not done, Dynamite. I have questions for you about the confrontation. The blonde growled as he let his head fall backwards in annoyance. He just wanted to get out of there, not get stuck with the shitty damn police, useless wonders that they were. Police stop villain. Pro Hero Dynamite fails. By Tanio Tokuda during an altercation during morning traffic. Pro Hero Dynamite was confounded on how to prevent a villain from rampaging middle of Musutafu downtown. The altercation began at approximately 842 and was brought to a conclusion at 956, over an hour later. That's a slow response and resolution time for any hero. During the altercation, Pro Hero Dynamite was reported to have turned his comms off when an officer was trying to refer intel on the villain to him. This led to said officer deciding to take action as the altercation was taking too long with too much collateral damage. Officer Midoriya Izuku, on the force for 2 years, stepped up when he pulled his weapon out and took aim at the villain's Achilles tendon. The officer used rubber bullets to take the villain down with minimal damage to both villain and surrounding areas. Having taken into account the direction the villain would fall and where civilians were located, the officer fired 4 shots, 2 for each Achilles, and brought the villain down in record time. Officers were able to get the villain to shrink down to his correct size and then into quirk-nullifying handcuffs only moments after the shots were fired. We at Juzo News would like to thank Officer Midoriya for his courageous and quick takedown. It prevented any more collateral damage to the buildings around from both villain and hero, and allowed for traffic to be quickly restarted. For more on Musutafu Police Department, see page 3. For more on Officer Midoriya Izuku, see page 9. For more on Pro Hero Dynamite, see page 10. Pro Hero Dynamite verbally assaults officers by Tsukachi Makoto. Heroes Magazine. News in today's society. We rely on heroes to help contain villains and criminal happenings. We've all come to the conclusion that a hero is the one in charge of protecting us in everyday living. We look at heroes like celebrities and the know-all superior in law enforcement, all of which is not true. Heroes are there to be licensed professionals to use their quirks to defeat those we call villains, or those who use their quirks to commit crimes, no matter what the actual label we put on that crime is. Theft, assault, destruction of property, high-speed chases, and so many more that could end up with you becoming a villain if you use your quirks to commit the crime. That is all heroes are licensed to do. Unless they have special licensing or permits or are asked specifically by the police force, they cannot conduct investigations on their own or interrogate individuals concerning crimes. They must work with the police force to do any investigations, serve warrants, help in stings or operations, and to interrogate an individual connected to crimes. So who does all of that work that heroes can't? The police force, of course. They have all the training, codes, weapon authorization, and understanding of procedures needed to successfully prosecute villains or criminals. They also help with everyday situations like insurance fraud, helping old ladies cross the road, kidnapping investigations, and also stolen properties. Police do so much for our communities, and yet they are the bulk that gets most of the complaints and fits from everyone. One such incident happened during a villain incident in downtown Musutafu where a villain was rampaging. Pro Hero Dynamite was taking much too long to stop the villain, and so the police stepped up to help. Officer Midoriya brought the villain down, and instead of thank said officer for his help, Pro Hero Dynamite began to scream in the officer's face. No one was near enough to give a statement, nor did Officer Midoriya or Inspector Tsukachi wish it give one. It was reported that Dynamite turned comms off when Officer Midoriya tried to relay a plan to him, and when the takedown was done by the officer, he got into his face and began to scream. We all know that Dynamite has a temper and curses quite a bit, so it doesn't take much time to think of what was being screamed at the officer. We here at Heroes Magazine News hope that Officer Midoriya is apologized to and that pro-hero Dynamite gets at least a stern talking to, if not suspension, as officers, and the police force should not be treated in such a manner, especially not after all that they do and have done for us. You have to be kidding me. Ssakachi groaned as he looked at the newspaper and then the magazine, wanting to call up his sister and scream at her. She wasn't supposed to be writing articles anymore, but apparently this was just too much to pass up. "I'm sorry," Midoriya yelled as he bowed to his superior. "I ignored all phone calls this weekend that I didn't recognize, and I didn't go out. But it still seems some things were published." His voice was soft and regretful, though the inspector couldn't begin to think for what. "Don't worry about it. This is unfortunately part of the job." Ssakachi sighed as he ran a hand over his face. "There'll be more like this as you get higher up in the ranks and the more cases that you close, especially if they're rather large cases. Now stand up, we've got more work to do." He pulled some files forward and Izuku didn't waste a second to step up and look them over as well. "We'll be working with Sir Night-Eye within the coming weeks. There's a Yakuza group that we failed to detain in the past. It led to the loss of a young girl that they were using back then. Our main goal will be to rescue her and stop the Yakuza from escaping a second time." You'd think with Sir's ability to see into the future, you'd be able to detain them," Izuku muttered as he looked over the file, brows furrowing when he realized why they hadn't. He didn't even try and stop them. He said that bust would fail, but since he saw it, it's set in stone. Ssakachi sighed as he rubbed at his eyes. "Hopefully there'll be a better outcome." Izuku just frowned before shaking his head. It didn't matter, as he'd make sure they'd get that girl at the very least. "Come on now, keep up, officer." Lemillion beamed as he ran down the hallways of the underground bunker that the Shy Hasekai was using, his bright red cape the only reason why Izuku was able to even spot him most of the time, the white of the rest of his suit blending too well with the concrete surrounding them. The only real colors differentiating him was the yellow mask and the blue lining on his suit, along with the bright yellow million on his chest. The bunker was hidden underneath a warehouse, and this time they had used a contractor that could touch any piece of a building and have a complete blueprint of the place. There was no running away this time. Izuku gasped as he kept up behind the pro-hero, face dripping with sweat even as he kept his gun at the ready. "I know, we're in a hurry, but I can't phase through the walls," he shouted as he watched said pro phase through a wall that he'd have to take a detour around. He had been paired up with the hero by Sir Night-Eye for some reason, not understanding why, but still, he did his best to keep up. They both knew the location they needed to appear in. The area with Chisaki Kai was hidden away with Eri, a bunker that apparently was hidden away and supposed to be hard to find. With Sir's foresight, they were able to find it, and so the pro had paired Izuku and Lemillion up and sent them to that area. Problem was, it was in the very center of the building and the place was a goddamn maze. Lemillion was continually phasing through the walls to get to where they were going, but it was taking Izuku a moment to take turns and pathways that he only knew because he memorized the damn place. It was a good thing they took Mimic out near the start this time. That maniac's ability would have slowed Izuku down even more than he already was with the maze. He huffed as he took a turn and then appeared in a hallway, Lemillion standing in front of a blank wall with his hands on his hips and a smile on his face. "Good of you to catch up," he stated as his entire body began to be covered in golden lightning. "They should be right in here." He lifted a hand, apparently ready to smash the wall down. "Wait," Izuku yelled as he leapt forward, trying to stop the other, but too late as the hero destroyed the wall with a yell. "I should have known you'd be the one to show up," Overhaul said as the dust began to clear to reveal him standing there, hand raised up and pointing directly at the hero. "Time to finish this once and for all," he stated, but instead of firing the gun, he dropped to the ground to touch his hand there, sending spikes up into the air. "Well, I'm not letting you get away this time," Lemillion yelled as he phased through the spikes and towards Overhaul with a bright grin on his face. Izuku ignored the fight going on as he snuck into the room as the hero worked. It was a bit of a pain to climb the spikes, but he was able to slowly and carefully move around them as Lemillion led the villain further into the hallway. Apparently Overhaul thought the other had come alone, which would have been true if Izuku hadn't made it a point to try and keep up. He made it into the safe room and was soon looking around, see if he could spot a little girl with silver hair and red eyes. "Hello," he called out softly as he continued to look around, crouched slightly to try and keep from being seen by a possible enemy. "Hello, is there a little girl here?" he questioned as he looked around the couch that was in the room, along with through the cupboards and a mini kitchenette. He wasn't seeing anything and wasn't sure if she was even in the room. He was just about to give up when he saw movement that was just behind the couch, a little door that was patting the back of the couch softly. He blinked at it for a moment before walking forward and moving the couch out of the way. The door popped open as soon as the couch was moved. Hey there. Izuku smiled gently as he crouched in front of the little hidden door, the space inside no bigger than 6 by 6 feet, nothing but concrete flooring and the concrete walls. The red eyes of a 10-year-old girl met his own green eyes. I'm sorry we took so long to come and save you. He held a hand out to her. But the police and heroes are here to get you out now and somewhere safe. 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴𝐴, she whispered as she looked up at him hopefully, several scars along her face and her horn about the length of his forearm, the most discerning features. She wore a raggedy blue hospital gown that had blood stains all over it and bandages along her arms and legs. He's here, yeah. He's fighting 𝐒𝐻𝑎l right now, Izuku explained softly, still keeping his hand held out to the little girl. We need to go so that he can finish fighting him, he explained softly, still just waiting. The girl looked at him for a long moment before giving a nod and taking his hand hesitantly. Can I really leave now? She asks as she crawls out of the room, Izuku helping her all the way. Yes, you can, and I'll help you, he explains as he picks the girl up easily, holding her close to his chest to keep her from being seen. Let's go, keep your head down and hold tight. With that he makes his way through the spikes once more and then looks out into the hallway. 𝐒𝐻𝑎l is closer to him but is facing away, 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 keeping him busy as he leaps around wildly, waiting for a chance to actually get the villain in between spurts of spikes. Izuku waits a moment as he makes eye contact with 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 before turning and taking off down the hallway. Unfortunately, that was apparently all the time it took for 𝐒𝐻𝑎l to realize that something was up. 𝐸𝑟𝑖, bring her back, he screams, and Izuku just barely misses as a spike almost impales him in the side, instead only tearing along his upper right arm, a surface wound at most. He doesn't stop and he doesn't drop the girl. Fine then, dodge, 𝐵𝘃𝐴 screams as a gunshot goes off, but Izuku can't. He doesn't have the ability to safely dodge at this point, and so he takes a hit in the shoulder, pain screaming through him as the bullet lodges into the already wounded flesh. He doesn't stop. He just keeps running even as 𝐒𝐻𝑎l screams and 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 stops the villain from chasing after the officer and little girl. It's okay, he assures the little girl as he holds her tight, ignoring her crying at the moment as there's little he can do about that at this moment. I've got you, we're getting you out. But ... you got shot. She sniffles as she buries her face into his chest. Your quirk is, you don't have to worry about that, Izuku informs with a soft sad smile, for once happy that he honestly doesn't have to worry about a quirk. I'm quirkless. He gets her out and 𝐒𝐻𝑎l is hauled off to jail thanks to 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴. Oh man, I can't believe we managed that, 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 exclaimed as he collapsed across from Izuku in the booth the officer had taken, very noticeably alone. You did an awesome job keeping up and getting Eri out of there. He smiled proudly at the greenette. Izuku gulped and nodded his head as he held the bowl of katsudon in front of him tightly. Tsukachi was getting his own meal while Sir, Bubble Girl, and Centipter were sat at the table behind him with 𝐵𝑃𝐴𝐴 and Rocklock. There were other heroes in the restaurant, all eating in celebration at a bust well done. Izuku and Tsukachi were the only police force officers that had been invited to come because of how closely they had worked with the heroes, invited mostly by Sir, who had given Izuku a solid smile and nod of his head, despite having to be in pain because of his now missing arm. Oh, thanks, Izuku whispered as he looked down at his meal. You ... you did great too, sort of. He was still mad about 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 trying to ditch him during the sting, but at the same time he could kinda understand. Yeah, but like, nothing compared to you, the blonde continued with that bright smile on his face, patting Sun Eater on the shoulder when he appeared next to his boyfriend, the hero's white cape hiding his features even after he had taken off his blue visor. Like, you didn't stop at all. Even when 𝐒𝐻𝑎l almost impaled you, or even when you lost your quirk from the quirk erasing bullet. He slammed his hand on the table. Which I'm so sorry about. I couldn't stop him from shooting you and now you don't have your quirk. Izuku stared up at the hero in bewilderment as Sun Eater shook his head at his partner. Mirio, you can't bring things like that up so easily, he muttered as he bowed towards the officer. Forgive him, his very blunt. 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 gave an apologetic laugh as Izuku shook his head. That's fine, I don't have a quirk anyways. I'm quirkless, he explained, taking in the now shocked faces in front of him. You kept up with me without a quirk? 𝐵𝘃𝐴𝐴 questioned in a hushed whisper in wide eyes. Yes. Izuku wondered if that offended the man. He knew that 𝐿𝐃𝐴𝐴 had an awakening to his quirk of sorts. Speed, strength, and his phasing had all gotten stronger, but he didn't think it would make such a big deal about him keeping up. Not that he had. He just knew which turns to take in the building while 𝐿𝐃𝐴𝐴 had just used his quirk to get there much faster. That's amazing, the pro shouted, startling both of his booth companions at his outburst. You're one hell of an officer for keeping up with me when you don't even have a quirk. Izuku just gave a nervous chuckle, hoping that the waiting staff didn't hear any of that, though by the fact that Tsukachi threatened the owner for price gouging at the end of their meal told him otherwise. You must be Midoriya Izuku, 𝐒𝐼𝐼𝐼's little mentee, an older gentleman said as he looked up from his desk. He had a balding head with the sides and back a dark brown with highlights of gray, 5 o'clock shadow that was on the verge of turning into a full mustache and beard. He was skinny and pale, wearing a brown blazer and matching pants with a white button-up shirt and black vest over top of that. His tie was loose and hanging down a bit, but his brown eyes spoke of geniality instead of laziness. "Yes, sir, Officer Midoriya, ready for duty." He gave a salute to the older gentleman, hoping that he wasn't about to get his ass sent out to get beat. He highly doubted this guy would do it himself, instead relegating things to others. He's sure. "None of that shit now, you're not here to work anyways. You're here to learn," he stated as he stood up from his desk where piles upon piles of files were settled. "My name is 𝐒𝐻𝗵𝗲. I'm an inspector just like 𝗧𝗵𝗲. He's asked me to teach you some things while he's away helping with a certain mission." "Oh, okay." Izuku mumbled as he took the hand and gave a shake of his own. "Timid, shy, most likely from being bullied in school, right? Not to mention the bruises and scarring on you speaks of either hard work or beatings, maybe both," he determined as he looked at the young man with a raised brow. "I already know you're quirkless. You don't have anything to worry from me concerning that. You'll want to stick close to me if we have to go out in the bullpen or work with the others, though. They aren't quite as nice." "Right." Izuku nodded before taking a seat in front of the other after being waved to do so. "So Tsukachi-senpai says you're one of the best detectives he knows aside from Eraserhead. Says you have some things you can show me, if you don't mind," he stated softly as he fiddled with his hands and waited for a reply. "I can, so let's get started." The man stuck a cigarette in his mouth and chuckled at the wrinkled nose the rookie gave him. "You'll get used to it. Just ignore it and take a look at this file and tell me what you see." "Hey bro, need a hand?" Shitty Hair called as Bakugo leaned back in his chair, staring at the newspaper with a scowl on his face. His hair was ridiculously long but still red and spiky. He wore the stupid muzzle-like mask still. He'd gotten rid of the gears on his shoulders but kept the black long sleeves with the red ripped cloth around his waist and black combat boots with similar black boots. Shitty Hair was also a fucking monster in height and width, bearing over Katsuki's own 6'3" with his 6'8". "What you looking at?" he questioned when he got close enough to see what the blonde was reading. "Fucking shit, that's what." The blonde growled even as he continued to read how Deku had managed to profile a villain so well that the police were able to apprehend them without hero intervention. This wasn't the first newspaper appearance the nerd had made since he had seen him at that gigantic villain crime scene. Not even close, but it was starting to get really annoying as the nerd seemed to just appear more and more in the newspapers and stirring a fuss in society and communities everywhere. Quirkless people were now starting to stand their grounds harder and demanding equal rights, especially as one of their own was proving to be more effective than some heroes in a field that should have been held by nothing but quirks. "Oh, that quirkless dude. Yeah, Sun Eater was telling me all about him too. Smart and fast. Was able to keep up with Lemillion during a bust on Yakuza a few months ago," Kirishima explained excitedly, waving his file around like an idiot. The blonde scoffed but could believe it. The nerd was relentless and determined to the point of stupid. Not to mention his ability to analyze and figure a quirk out was better than anyone he had ever met. If the nerd had kept it up, he was sure that those skills surpassed even some of the best paid analysts that they had. "What was it you wanted, Shitty Hair?" "Oh yeah, here, can you take a look at this and tell me if you can figure anything out? This villain's quirk is confusing us all and not even our analysts know what to do," he explained and handed over said file. The blonde looked it over, frowning as he realized the problem. The mode of transportation, which had to do with the villain's quirk, but everyone was unsure. Some of the pictures showed them there 1 second and gone the next. There weren't any shadows and the report says the villains hadn't moved when they disappeared. He couldn't see anything that would assist with that, and as he looked through profiles for the villain, there were no suspects that matched their build or description. "Fucker, is there a shitty surveillance video?" "Yeah, there is, but there's not much we could see on that too." Kirishima moved over to the blonde's computer and typed in the information, bringing up the video. Again, there was no sign of what the other's quirk was. He was there and then just gone. "Gone through all the fuckers with transportation quirks?" he questioned next as he slowed down the video, trying to catch anything from the fucker at all. Shitstain didn't even smile before he disappeared. Just was gone with all the money he had stolen. "Yeah, all that are registered at least. None of them fit the profile or markers we have of them." He shook his head in frustration. "We've got a dead end, but we also know that he'll hit again. This wasn't the first hit he's done. We just don't know where or when for the next one. It's lucky we even got this one in the first place." Bakugo sat there for a long minute, thinking things over, going over the video and file multiple times as he did. It was close to 2 hours, close to his patrol time, when he finally sighed and gave it. "Look, I can't see a shitty thing indicating anything. Fucker knows what he's doing and is hiding any tells that I could see," he explained as he turned to his friend. "Okay, so now what?" Kirishima's face faltered at that. frustration and sadness warring on his face as he tried to control his emotion. Not even the analysts could see anything, and they've studied quirks to a stupid point, which is why you need someone better. Bakugo sighed as he glanced towards the newspaper once more before turning back to the shitty hair. Get in contact with 𝗬𝗏, that shitty detective that was friends with All Might, and ask him to talk to Deku. He'll know what I mean if you say Dynamite sent you. Okay, I can do that. Kirishima nodded his head. Do you think he could really help me? He questioned after a moment of indecisiveness. If Deku can't figure it out, then none of us shitty people can. Bakugo assured as he stood up. I've got fucking patrol. Good luck on your case, shitty hair. Kaken sent you? Izuku questioned as he looked over the file that Red Riot had handed him. Cigarette smoking lightly as he took a drag while 𝗬𝗏 sat at his desk chair, scowl on his face. Yeah, said to ask for Deku and that if you can't help me, then no one can. He explained nervously, watching the inspector carefully. He'd just about been smacked with a full of cold coffee cup when he had said that. I'm guessing that's you. Yeah, that's what Kaken's called me since we were kids. He mumbled around a cigarette as he looked at the pictures with a frown. No indication of his quirk from the pictures alone. No shadows or anything close by that he could have used to disappear. Izuku muttered as he looked at them. What floor are these taken on? Oh, I think it was the 5th floor or something like that. Why? He came around to look at the pictures too. Is it because of the windows behind him? Yeah, I wonder. Izuku mumbled as he turned and pulled 𝗬𝗏's laptop towards him and opening a new screen. Let me just bring up the security videos. He explained as he did just that and watched the video closely. Next time you see Dynamite, tell him I'm shooting him if he call Officer Midoriya Deku ever again. 𝗬𝗏 told the redhead, sending the younger man into sweats at the threat. They all knew that the man could very well go through with his threats and keep his job without even batting an eye. The man was that good. It's a habit at this point. You'd be shooting him all the time if you kept that promise. Izuku explained as he paused the video, and then zoomed into the glass. You see that flicker right there? Izuku questioned as he tilted his head. Isn't that just the sun? Kirishima questioned as he looked at the flash across the glass. Video was taken at 648. The sun was in the east at that time. This side of the building is facing west, away from the sun, so why is there a flash there? Izuku explained as he left the screen and instead jumped into the quirk registry for civilian. Whoa, I didn't think of that, Kirishima admitted as he watched the other bring up profiles of individuals before settling on one. Who's that? This is Kagami Yuka, female, age 26, and quirk is crystal transportation. Izuku explained as he took a deep breath of his cigarette before releasing the smoke. He ignored the cough from the hero as he flicked the ashes into a nearby ashtray that his senpai was nice enough to let him have. The older man had greatly regretted letting Izuku work with 𝗬𝗏-senpai when he came back with the smoking habit, but the figure looks like they're male. Kirishima pointed out at the picture. See, broad shoulders are normally a male feature. Not to mention the height is almost 6 feet tall. You're forgetting that women can have broad shoulders and be tall too. Though she's hiding the fact that she has breasts well. Most likely a binder or ace bandages with a sports bra, she still has a swell to her chest that only super muscled men have. I'm sure you've seen Kaken's pecs. They rival Creaty's own chest. Izuku explained as he pulled up the picture of the villain holding their hands in the air. Then he pointed down to the hips and waist. They also have the hourglass figure to their hips and thighs, not to mention the way they walk. He pushes the camera footage back to watch as said villain steps back. Most women have a specific gait because of their hips and they sway naturally. Men and trans women have to practice that sway, and there's always a difference that's noticeable if you know what to look for. So, our villain is this woman, Kagami, then? Kirishima questioned with furrowed brows. Yep, that flash we saw in the window was from her quirk. Crystal transportation, despite its name, allows the user to transport any crystal-like surface. So glass, shiny plastic, crystal, and so forth. He pulled up her picture to show off the fact that she was a solid 6 foot tall, skinny, but broad in the shoulders, small-chested but swollen in the hips and thighs. I betcha that if you check her apartment, all that jewelry will be there. Alright then, I'll take this to 𝗏𝗏 and take a look. Thanks a lot, Midoriya. Kirishima thanks as he leaves the office. I still hate Dynamite for that stupid name. 𝗬𝗏 stated as he took a sip from his new cup of hot coffee. Don't care, senpai. Izuku returned as he took a large drag on his cigarette. It's been a year, Officer Midoriya. Chief Tsuragami stated as he stared at the officer in front of him. I've had nothing but glowing recommendations from Inspectors 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗬𝗏. Then there's the glowing statements from pro heroes such as Sir Nighthigh, Lemillion, 𝗏𝗏, Red Riot, Froppy, Eraserhead, and Dynamite. Kaken, Izuku squeaked before covering his mouth in mortification and interrupting the chief. This was the official hearing to declare whether he gets to become an inspector or get fired on the spot. The probationary year was over and everything he worked towards was decided today. Here and now. He really shouldn't be interrupting the chief. I don't know who that is, but it doesn't matter. The chief gave a low ruff as he pulled the officer's file in front of him. All of them had nothing but good things to say about you, and some are harder to impress than others. Yes, sir. I am to work appropriately with any hero or inspector that allows it, Izuku assured calmly. Wishing he could chew on the cigarette hidden in his front pocket, Tsukachi had stolen his pack before the meeting and told him he was to quit the moment he got promoted. Fat chance of that happening. It was a nice little stress reliever and much better than his old one, especially now that he wore the summer short sleeves that revealed all manners of scars, including the one he's got during the Yakuza raid, which reminded him he needed to go and check on Eri, make sure she was doing okay with Eraserhead. Yes, so I've heard. The chief went quiet for a long moment, making Izuku want to fidget and move, but he knew better than to do that. The sergeant at the academy used to use his taser and baton on him whenever he so much as shivered. He knew better than to move when it stand, which I all agree with. So, starting today, you are Inspector Midoriya Izuku. You'll stay with Tsukachi, but you'll also be able to take your own cases and start your own investigation. Izuku's eyes widened in shock, hoping but not believing that this would happen. It was a great honor to have happen, and he was going to take it with all that he was worth. Thank you so much, Chief Tsuragami. He bowed in a 90-degree angle, and he repeated over and over again how thankful he was for this opportunity and chance. The chief gave a hearty laugh as he held out the new badge and ID to the inspector. There is nothing to thank me for. You did all of the work. I just signed off on it, which mean a lot to me. You have no idea, Izuku assured as he took the ID and badge into both hands, staring down at them in disbelief. Being quirkless, sir, is normally a death sentence. Very few of us make it this far, let alone pass high school. I know the statistics, Inspector, which is why you deserve this win even more. You'll inspire other quirkless to not give up, and hopefully that minority won't even be labeled anymore. You'll all just be humans that don't have quirks but are still quite strong despite it. The chief gave a sigh and shake of his head. But that'll take time, so keep pushing to striving for higher reaches, Inspector. I have high hopes for you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Izuku saluted before nodding at the chief's own nod of dismissal. He turned to leave the office, excited to go to Tsukachi and tell him the great news, except a picture hanging up at the front of the station flashed in his eyes, and he stopped and looked over at the chief. There's one thing I want to ask you about, Chief. I can't see the villain, 𝗂𝐼 shouted from where she was, stopping rubble from slamming into buildings and civilians alike. It was a dangerous move to make, since if she couldn't use her quirk at just the right moment, the boulders would crush her. She had to time it just right and then set them down gently to help prevent any more damage. There were a few times that her quick hadn't affected the boulders quick enough, and her helmet had fully cracked down the middle, breaking off of her head and showing off her brown pixie cut. Blood was running down her forehead as she worked. Ignoring the tears in her pink and black astronaut hero suit, she'd gotten rid of the rings on her wrists and switched the heels into solid pink combat boots. I can't either, 𝗧𝗪𝗡 shouted out from his place on top of a light pole, trying to position himself to get his eyes on them, even as he whipped civilians away. His own helmet had been busted in the front, revealing a pale face with specks of blood. The helmet similar to his high school model, while he had gotten rid of the tape dispensers on his shoulders and switched the white parts of his suit to a dark yellow instead. How about you, Sugarman or Earphone Jack? I'm stuck in a corner and I'm not picking up any sounds my way. Earphone Jack growled from her place against the ground, hidden behind a building as she tried to use her ear jacks to locate the villain's position. She had grown her hair out some and now wore it in a low ponytail, while her once leather jacket was now black denim that was bullet, flame, and knife resistant. She wore a dark purple shirt underneath and long black jeans with her combat boots, along with fingerless white gloves. I know they're about midway in the street somewhere, but they're causing too much of a ruckus for me to pinpoint solidly. I can't get close enough to see them, Sugarman shouted even as he dodged the boulders, knowing his fellow heroes could handle them. He kept his yellow jumpsuit but had changed the once tan belt into a blue one in honor of their now disabled classmate. His gloves and boots were a matching dark blue. They keep pulling the ground up too fast for me to get close enough. Well, damn it, we need a plan, 𝗂𝐼 shouted as she caught another boulder. Yeah, well, if anyone has one, let the rest of us know, Earphone shouted back as she tried to move out to help Sugarman, but had to duck back as another boulder came her way. Why are civilians still here? They should have evacuated a while ago, 𝗧𝗪𝗡 gripped as he grabbed two teenagers and swiped them down the street. Get out of here. It's too dangerous to be around this area. He shooed them away. How about I step in? A voice spoke through their comms, one none of them recognized. I have clear visual of the villain. Once I take them out, Sugarman and 𝗧𝗪𝗡 can detain. He spoke calmly. Sounds like a plan to me, Earphone agreed, along with the rest, knowing that whoever it was had to be a hero or police. Those were the only ones who had access to their comms, free to take them out when ready. All right then, in 3, 2, 1. The four heroes watched as all the boulders suddenly stopped, and as the two males leapt forward to detain, found the villain completely knocked out. Whoa, dude is totally unconscious, Cellophane informed them as he helped Sugarman put them in quirk-nullifying cuffs. Hey dude, whatcha hit him with? Rubber bullet to the forehead. Just enough of a hit and pressure to cause debilitating pain and cause them to pass out. The voice explained calmly. That seems rather violent, but it worked, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 said as she appeared at the crater the villain had created. Do we get to know who did the takedown of this villain? Yeah, I'm rather curious myself, Earphone said as she crossed her arms over her chest. I've never heard your voice before, so you must be new, at least to us. Not to mention badass, Cellophane stated with an excited smile. A rubber bullet, but I didn't hear a gunshot, so you can't be too close by. Did you hear that shot, Earphone? Sugarman asked as he hauled the villain over his shoulder, waiting for the police to show up and detain them. I did, but it wasn't close by. It might take this person a moment to get to us, she explained calmly as she twirled one of her earphones. Maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk. How about 4 minutes it took me to go down the stairs, the voice stated from the side of 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, who whipped around with the rest to take in the sight of the man. Name is Deku, the SWAT hero. Nice to meet you, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 said with a bubbly smile. Walk forward to take the other's hand in her own grip, her pink fingerless gloves seeming almost neon against his own black ones. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, Deku smiled as he nodded towards the others, his hair a green that matched his green eyes perfectly. He wore a black long-sleeve tactical shirt with a police tactical vest over the top of that, black gloves, and then combat pants that fit into bright red combat boots. The last thing he wore was a black rain jacket that had SWAT printed over the back. In his hands was some supped-up sniper rifle. Nice to meet you all. I hope I showed up in time to be of service. You did. Great timing too, Sugarman assured happily even as he adjusted the villain more comfortably on his shoulder. We couldn't get close enough to do a thing until you showed up, he explained calmly. Yeah, thanks for the assist, man, Cellophane stated as he held his hand up for a high five, getting a tentative one in reply. We couldn't have done that easily without you. Probably would have taken us another 10 minutes, at least, to come up with a plan. TCH, if we were lucky, none of us were able to get close at all, Earphone complained. We better hope Dynamite doesn't find out or he'll have us running drills like crazy. Well, that's what we get for joining his agency like we did. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 sighed before shaking her head. Anyways, thank you so much. Would you like to join us for a meal after all the reports and whatnot? Yeah, we'll pay since you assisted us, Earphone offered up next. Deku suddenly looked unsure as his hand went into a pocket and pulled a cigarette out, placing it into his mouth. I don't want to be a bother or anything, he explained as he pulled a lighter out and lit up his cigarette. No bother at all, Sugarman assured happily. We'll happily have you. Yeah man, come on out with us, Cellophane cheered with 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, the two trying to convince him even more. Well, if you're sure, he said as he nodded his head. Oh trust me, we are. Earphone patted him on the shoulder as she walked over to the arriving police cruisers. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 shouted out with a giant bark of a laugh. Go figure, you losers had to have Deku help you out. That'll be drills for you this weekend, he stated as he looked at the 4 heroes who were all regretting inviting the SWAT hero to dinner. Come on Kakin. None of them could get an aerial without collateral getting worse, Deku exclaimed from his place next to the blonde. Both had large glasses of beer in their hands, with one eating spicy curry and the other katsudon. They needed to focus on those before stopping the villain. Fuck that shit. Round Cheeks could have shot blood sugar into the fucking air before releasing him on top of the fucker. She's done similar with the other shit stains at my agency in the past, he snarled as he looked at the now sheepish-looking group. Fucking idiots, the lot of you. Okay, yeah, we could have done that, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 said as she scratched at her cheek in mortification. Why didn't we think of that? 𝗧𝗏𝗏 questioned as he slammed his head on the counter. No kidding. We could have even done the balloon trick too, now that I think about it, 𝗬𝗏 said as he shared a look with the gravity quirk user. We could have stopped more boulders that way and then just swung them back at the villain. Fuck, we really are stupid, Gyro complained as Yell, taking a long drink on her own beer. We deserve those drills. Fuck right you do, assholes. The blonde scoffed at them as he took a bite of his spicy curry. Thought you could hide the fact that Deku saved your asses. Fuckers, who do you think has to look at those reports? I always forget you're a top hero and a boss now, Deku mutters as he chews on some food, keeping a cigarette behind his ear as he did so. He was going to go for a smoke after he finished eating. Maybe go home as well. Top 10 hero and you own an agency. You're only 21 too Kakin. Fuck yeah, sped run that shit, he exclaimed happily before turning to look at the greenette. Could always use another hero on board as well. Can't hardly get shit done when these idiots don't know their asses from their faces. What the fuck, Bakugo? Gyro yelled as she stood up. Fuck you, man. You'd be hopeless without us. You'd have no agency at all. Zero agreed as he nodded his head. Kirishima, Denki, Mina, Shinso and the rest of Classa would be screaming at you right now, dude. He'd deserve it for being a bully. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 huffed as she took a bite of her dango. her little dessert that she allowed herself as treat. "Dude, you'd miss my jalapeno bread," Sato stated with a scowl. Bakugo rolled his eyes at the four before meeting Emerald eyes, so much brighter than when they met during that giant villain fight, so much more full of life. "Whatcha think, Deku? Want to join the Twin Stars agency? Could use a badass hero like you with us." Izuku smiled at the blonde as he tilted his head, remembering that last encounter they had, over a year ago now. "I don't know, Kaken. Do you want a pathetic and useless quirkless wannabe hero at your agency?" he shot out, catching the four heroes off guard while the blonde's eyes shuddered. "Well, think you can handle that?" The greenette watched as emotions that he could pick out like a ripe cherry shot back and forth in those eyes. The frown on his face curled into a snarl before a deep breath seemed to soothe it out into a slight smirk. "I could fucking take you all fucking day, Deku. You've more than shown the damned world how fucking wrong I was in the past. Now it's time to show the world how wrong they are about you shitty quirkless assholes." A pause before the blonde's face softened to a more solemn look. "With that said, I'm sorry and I would be more than fucking happy to have you at my agency." Izuku blinked in surprise before tears began to well up in his eyes. "Kaken," he yelled as he wrapped his arms around the other's neck faster than he could dodge. "Wonder Duo," he blubbered out a moment later. The blonde scowled but didn't push the other away, allowing the shorter male to wrap his arms around him. "Sure, why the fuck not?" he agreed with a tired sigh. He ignored how the nerd's hand ran up into his undercut and rubbed exactly where he loved it, almost melting in his grip. "Fuck you, nerd. The fuck do you remember shit like that?" Izuku could only laugh even as Kaken melted in his hands and their coworkers all laughed around them. Pro-hero Dynamite repents and hires quirkless hero. By Tanio Tokuda in a shocking turnaround. Pro-hero Dynamite hires the quirkless officer that he had been caught yelling at. Officer Midoriya Izuku is now pro-hero, SWAT hero, Deku, and is now working out of Twin Stars agency. He works under Pro-hero Dynamite and it seems that it's a perfect fit. Hero Deku is seen regularly patrolling with all the heroes of the agency, the most being Dynamite himself. Many would think that Hero Deku would prefer to work underground where he would have more tactical advantages against villains, but the hero is adamant in working as a Twilight hero. "I want to show people that just because I'm quirkless doesn't mean I'm useless or incapable. I grew up with that stigma, my teachers and classmates belittling me and leaving spider lilies on my desk, but what can they say now? I'm a hero that helps save people and protects those who can't protect themselves." Here the hero had to take a moment to collect himself before continuing. "I went through hell growing up, but I didn't give up and became a hero. Thus quirkless people aren't hopeless or weak. We can do anything a quirked person can do with the right tools and training. I hope that other quirkless take me being here as hope and keep fighting." A stunning statement from Hero Deku, who is praised by his co-workers and even the chief of police, stating how intelligent and capable he is. There is even rumor that Principal Nezu is wishing to have a meeting with the young man but has been unable to set up an appointment yet. What's even more astounding is that the head of Twin Star Agency even gave a comment on his newest hero. "I removed the curses just to make it more appropriate to publish. I am one of the many who doubted Deku. I thought he'd be unable to become a hero and would just die trying. I thought of him as nothing more than a stepping stone. To think years later I come face to face with him after he took down the villain I was fighting in just mere minutes of watching the fight. I shouldn't be surprised. He's smart like that, always has been. He's proven he's not a stepping stone, that he's not worthless, and that he deserves all the chances that I had but didn't get. I can't apologize to him enough for our past history, but I can see him as my equal now and treat him as such, which means explosions in hands. Anyone who tries and disrespects the newest addition to Twin Stars better think twice because we're all behind him. It's become apparent that Dynamite and all that stand with him will stand with Pro-hero Deku. So at the recommendation of this reporter, I would suggest thinking more than twice before trying to going after a hero that does nothing but protect and save those that he can, even without a special power all his own. I would like everyone to think about some of the authors on fanfiction that died recently or a while ago. Some of them died in tragic accidents or illnesses and have left stories unfinished or had others finish them for them in memory. I would like everyone reading this to lower their heads, clasp their hands together and pray for those who have been lost. Allow there to be a moment of silence for wherever you, the reader, are, and remember not just the writers here on this site but those who have been lost in your life or in tragic events. Please remember that life is short and that you should love those in your life while you can and show your appreciation for what comes into your life. Again, thanks to those who have lost their lives for spreading inspiration through their works. I've written a story that wasn't exactly all cuddles and snuggles, and some of the comments made my blood turn to ice. I worry for those who suffer from abuse of any form or depression of any form, and so I decided to look for numbers to offer to those who need them. So I hope all of those who need one or more of these numbers will make use of them. You all are loved, and I pray that none of you give up on your life because of the assholes around you. Know that we are here for you, and all you need do is reach out and we'll all help where we can. Suicide. The number has been changed from the once before one and instead has been switched to a 3-digit number you can call or text. 988 is now the new suicide hotline number that is being released and used to connect to trained professionals. Please use the number if you are feeling like you aren't going to make it and get some help. Giving up is always an option, but that doesn't make it the best option. Thanks to 𝗧𝗵𝗲 for contacting me about this update to the suicide hotline. I appreciate any new or updated numbers for me to post for individuals to use. Please don't be afraid to give me numbers to information to use. I will gladly take it all into consideration and use as soon as I can. Bullying. 1-800-420-1479. Self-harm. 1-800-366-8288 or text 1-800-656-4673. Sexual assault. 1-800-656-4673. Lifeline. 1-800-784-8433. Grave support. 1-650-321-3438 or 1-800-445-4808. Depression. 1-630-482-9696. Drug, alcohol. 1-877-235-4525. Eating disorder. 1-630-577-1330 or 1-800-931-2237. Mental health. 1-800-442-9673 or 1-800-950-6264. Abuse. 1-800-799-7233. RAINN. 1-800-656-4673. RAINN's hotline is for anyone who's experienced sexual abuse or assault. When you call their main hotline, you'll be connected with someone at a local organization in your area who can provide live support and direct you to additional resources. National Deaf Domestic Violence Hotline. 1-855-812-1001. The National Deaf Domestic Violence Hotline is a spin-off from the NDVH specifically for deaf and hard of hearing individuals. You can get help over email or talk via video call to a trained counselor. Text hello to 741,741 if you aren't comfortable talking via phone. Crisis text line fields messages about suicidal thoughts, abuse, sexual assault, depression, anxiety, bullying, and more. What makes it unique is that it's entirely text-based, which makes it easy for anyone who doesn't feel comfortable or safe talking on the phone to use it. You can text 741,741 in the US or UK, or message Crisis Text Line on Facebook for help. You'll be matched with a volunteer counselor who is supervised by a licensed, trained mental health professional. Youthline. Text teen to 839,863 or call 1-877-968-8491. Youthline provides a safe space for children and adults ages 11 to 21 to talk through any issues they may be facing, including eating disorders, relationship or family concerns, bullying, sexual identity, depression, self-harm, anxiety, and thoughts of suicide. Child Help. National Child Abuse Hotline. 1-800-422-4453 for issues related to child abuse. Child Help connects you with a professional counselors to help in a crisis and provide information on how to get help. They offer phone support in 170 languages. The Trevor Project. 1-866-488-7386 or text START to 678,678. LGBTQIA+ kids and teens can reach out to the Trevor Project for support during a crisis if they are feeling suicidal or need a safe space to talk about any issue. You can also chat via their website or by texting START to 678,678. Trans Lifeline. 1-877-565-8860. The Trans Lifeline provides support specifically for transgender and questioning callers, run trans people. They provide support during a crisis and can also offer guidance to anyone who is questioning their gender and needs support. The hotline is available between 7 a.m. and 1 a.m. PST, 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. CST, or 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. EST, but operators are often available during off hours. So no matter when you need to call, you should. LGBT National Hotline. 1-888-843-4564. LGBT National Youth Talk Line. 1-800-246-7743. LGBT Senior Hotline. 1-888-234-7243. Also thanks to 𝗂𝐵𝗃14 for giving me some more websites to add on for the suicide prevention. The websites are 7cups.com and myheroacademia.org. Please reach out for help if you need them and don't be afraid to ask for help. We're stronger for helping each other, not for ignoring each other to drown. Thanks to 𝗧𝗵𝗲 who gave me some more resources to post on here for you guys. 𝗃𝗃.org is an association of mental health professionals from more than 25 countries who try and support efforts to reduce harm in therapy. The National Eating Disorders Association helpline now also has a 24/7 crisis support, text netted to 741,741. Thanks again to 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏 for offering up these resources for use. If anyone else has any more numbers or resources, feel free to post them in comments or even message me so I can put them in author notes and other pieces for further use. The fuck is this? Deku growled as he looked at the file in front of him with a glare. There were pictures of several villains and civilians alike. Some of them he recognized, including that giant villain Deku had stolen from him over a year ago. This is my current case with Inspector 𝗧𝗏𝗁𝗏. We've been tracking down new distributions of Trigger. So far we've been able to take out 5 different manufacturers, but none of them the main ones. Deku explained as he spread the file fully on the other's desk. We've tracked down 3 more warehouses, and I was hoping we could use your agency as a way to hit them all at once. He looked up at the other with hopeful eyes. You want me to stretch my agency thin to hit these facilities all at once with the police force? Deku questioned just to be sure. Well, I was hoping we could put you, me, and 𝗏𝗏 at different ones first of all. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 started as he pulled out his notebook and turned to a page before laying it in front of the other. Their list of teams was already sorted and ready for denial or approval. With me would be 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗏, Cellophane, and 𝗃𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗏. With you would be Red Riot, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and Pinky. With 𝗏𝗏𝗏 would be 𝗵𝘃𝗲, 𝗧𝗏, and 𝐔𝐬𝐽. He pointed at the last list, which depicted the leftover of the agency just in case. The others would stay here and back up whoever would need it. Though 𝗧𝗏𝗁𝗏 says that he's called on a few other agencies as well for help. Deku looked over the list and then back up at 𝗧𝗏𝗧 with glaring crimson eyes. Alright, we'll do this, but I'll be with you when you communicate with that shitty lie detector, understood? Of course, Kakin. He saluted in excitement. What the fuck, lemillion? Deku growled as he took a shot and brought one of the villains down in front of him, protecting the blonde hero from being stabbed. What the hell is going on with you in the middle of an opus? Sorry, my quirk. He groaned as the golden lightning that Deku has seen before seemed to flare around him and pop. I can't. Jesus Christ. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 shot another villain, hoping he would have enough rubber bullets to keep them down but knowing he might have to resort to his actual bullets soon. This is Deku. I'm retreating with an incapacitated lemillion. Understood, Deku. We'll call in backup. Make sure lemillion gets proper medical care. 𝗧𝗏𝗁𝗏 stated from the radio. Come on you. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 stooped and pulled an arm around his shoulder, grunting at the pure weight of the other hero as he stood up. We got to get you out of here. Okay. Lemillion gasped even as he grabbed at his chest, groaning and coughing up blood. Quick, I don't know how much long this'll last. Fuck, okay, I got you. He growled as he managed to shoot off another round of bullets and dragged the hero outside. Thankfully, Dark Shadow must have seen him trying to retreat and swatted more of the villains away from him and lemillion as 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗏 shot them up to the ceiling afterwards. Fucking fabulous to have badass teammates. The two managed to get out of the building, but instead of heading for medical where they should have gone, lemillion steered them towards an empty alleyway. Here is fine, the hero said as he coughed up blood, hunching over as the lightning cackled brightly around him. No, we need to get you to medical. They can fix whatever injury you got, Deku stated as he tried to lift the hero up again, but failed when the other phased through him. Now isn't the time to be stubborn. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 snarled at him angrily, trying to get a hold of him. I'm not, lemillion said as he looked up at the other. And medical wouldn't help. His voice was so gravely after all of that coughing. It's just my quirk. There's too much of it. Your body can't handle it. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 caught on instantly with a furrowed brow. What the hell is going on? I know your quirk had like an awakening in high school, but it shouldn't be hurting you like this. There shouldn't be damage like this from a single quirk. Lemillion gave a tired smile as he leaned against the building he had shuffled to. It's just really powerful. My body can't handle it. No, this isn't right, 𝗧𝗏𝗧 stated as he pulled at his hair and then pulling a cigarette out to smoke as he thought. I've read about quirks hurting their holders before, but that was the victims of 𝗃_1, when their bodies got more than one quirk shoved into it. He thought out loud. Fucker got away when All Might fought him at Kamino, along with Shigaraki, so he's still out there. You suddenly had an awakening in high school where you gained super strength and speed, nothing to do with permeation. He turned and stared at a wide-eyed hero. Did he force a quirk on you? Another one, that is. Or did you accept one? His hand tightened on his gun as he glared down at the hero. Lemillion stared at the other pro-hero for a long moment before giving a small smile and shake of his head. Nah, not from him at least, he admitted with a shrug. I got it from All Might, he admitted finally as his breathing seemed to start to even out. All Might? 𝗧𝗏𝗧 questioned as he stared in shock at the hero. What the fuck? It was a good thing he had already turned off their comms at the other's insistence. He apparently didn't want to worry the others while they were busy fighting. What the fuck does he have to do with this? All-for-One has an opposing quirk known as One for All. It belonged to his brother. Lemillion answered before jumping into the history of his quirk. 𝗧𝗏𝗧 could only stare open-mouthed at the hero in horror at the absolute shitty situation the other had been put in. Oh, okay, so a few hundred-year-old quirk that's been stockpiling energy and souls was shoved into your body, a body that already has a quirk, and now is consequently destroying you from the inside out because you have too much power for said body to deal with. Izuku took a deep drag on his cigarette and blowing out all the smoke before falling into a squatting position in absolute exhaustion. You're a fucking idiot. Yeah, I get that a lot. 𝐒𝐵 could only laugh at that. I have maybe a few months left before I die, so I have to find someone to give this quirk to before that happens. Getting rid of the quirk is going to be tough, especially if you don't want that person to fall to the same fate, except faster. Izuku theorized as he held his position in a squat. They'd have to be quirkless or they'd die just like you would. But where would we get a quirkless person that would be we could trust to hold this quirk? He mumbled as he took another drag. Hey, Deku, can you look up at me for a second? 𝐒𝐵 asked, his voice a lot closer than Deku thought it should have been, making his head snap up in surprise. Deku did not need to know what it was like having 𝐒𝐵's tongue shoved into his mouth at all. Suo. Toshinori drew out the word for as long as possible as he stared at the two young men in front of him. You transferred one for all into this young man, he asked as he took in the green hair that was curly and fluffy and surrounded those emerald eyes. Freckles spotted the young man's face and the scowl spoke of irritation. Are you sure he's up for it? Does it really matter what you think at this point? Izuku questioned as he let his inner Kaken take over. He would not falter in front of this man again. Not like in middle school, even if he was kind enough to help him get into the police academy. He still hated him for spiting his dreams of becoming a hero. Not your quirk anyways, it was 𝐒𝐵's and now mine. Hey, no need to be rude now, Mirio stated with a laugh as he patted the younger man on the shoulder. He was still a predecessor to the quirk after all, he could help you train it. Yes, I can definitely help out there. I still have Murai's notes and Aizawa's own notes too. We could even ask Nezu for help if we need to. He's rather excited to meet you for some reason. Toshinori rambled as he clapped his hands together. Yeah, I think I'm good, Izuku said instead as he chewed on the end of his unlit cigarette. I can find help elsewhere. I don't need someone who doesn't believe me and me to train me. Emerald eyes darkened as they met the confused neon blue of his predecessor. Or don't you remember telling me to be realistic? The blonde both blinked in confusion. Mirio looking at the older man as said man tried to remember where he could have seen those curls and eyes before. It took a minute before a rooftop and a middle schooler came to mind. And then explosions from one of his favorite bombs when he was captured by the sludge villain. One that had found out about his time limit and just after he had gifted Mirio his quirk. Though, I remember you now, he exclaimed happily before frowning in consternation. Ah, yes, I can see how you wouldn't want that. Wait, what do you mean? You didn't really tell him to be realistic, did you all might? Mirio questioned hurriedly. He did. Told me I couldn't be a hero and to be realistic. Instead I should try to be a police officer or a doctor. Izuku scoffed as his eyes darkened even more at the memory. To be fair, I went the officer route because I knew about 𝗵𝘃𝗻's history. If I hadn't known about that though, well, he tilted his head to the side as he looked back up. I wouldn't be here. Mirio looked horrified even as Toshinori looked saddened. I am sorry for that. I can't take back the words for that time. Only to let you know I was in a terrible place and should have never taken it out on you. I'm sorry I said them to you at all. He bowed to the young man, who just watched him with a blank stare, unsure of how to act. But it seems it doesn't matter what I thought back then because you've become a splendid hero. All on your own and in your own way. He sat back up with a smile and spread his hands out wide. You have done marvelous to prove all of us naysayers wrong. Izuku swallowed at the as tears beaded along the corners of his eyes, just about biting the end of his cigarette off. Thank you for that, All Might. I appreciate it. He nodded his head at him. But I stand by what I said earlier. I'll figure this out with people I trust. And that's all right. I wish you luck, and if you do have any questions that can't be answered, then I'll do what I can to help. He offered before also grabbing a piece of paper and scribbling a number on it. Gran Torino might be helpful to you as well. He's my old teacher that helped me. If you don't want to call me or Murai, feel free to call him. Izuku took the number with a nod before standing up. I'm afraid I have patrol coming up, so I have to go. Thank you again for meeting me and Mirio. Remember to get some rest. With that he disappeared from the room with a new quirk weighing him down even as his shoulders felt lighter. I'm sorry. You'll have to fucking explain that to me again. Kaken growled as he stood in the gym of the agency. You fucking got stuck with what now? All Might's quirk, which was passed to 𝐒𝐵 before 𝐒𝐵 literally French kissed it into me. Deku explained again with a groan, wishing he could smoke but Kaken had forbidden it in the gym. A quirk that's several hundred years old at least. He explained, one I have no clue on how to control. Well, we know All Might could change the weather and 𝐒𝐵 pulled similar feats. So I'm sure you could do that as well, Kaken thought as he held his chin between thumb and pointer finger. But fuck, you've never had a quirk before. Yeah, did title Quirkless clue you in on this? Izuku questioned sarcastically as he looked at his hands. What the fuck am I supposed to do here? Don't fucking use it yet, for sure on that. The blonde rubbed at his face. Fuck, I don't know. Let me give a call to someone who might know more shit than us. He pulled out his cell phone and did just that. So you got lemillion's quirk but have no clue on how to use it? Eraserhead questioned as he stared at the kid in front of him. Still short and stout but with more muscle cording his frame, making him more compacted than wiry. Pretty much. Izuku gave a shrug, unsure of what to do under the stern gaze of Aizawa. Someone even Kaken respected greatly and who he respected, but he wasn't sure how he would help Izuku. Alright, let's start with you just bringing the quirk to the surface. Do not use it, Aizawa stated sternly as he glared at the teen. I don't have full strength of my quirk since I lost one eye. It only works half effectively, so I won't be able to fully stop any damage you could cause if you try and use this quirk, he explained. Izuku nodded his head before taking a deep breath before concentrating. He closed his eyes as he focused inwards and took notice that where he had once felt nothing, he felt nothing but energy, making his body buzz. He pulled the energy forward and pushed it towards his arm, where he effectively fell to his knees and hissed in pain as the quirk seemed to completely bruise his arm without him even having to do anything. Well, this'll take a while, Aizawa stated as he looked at the purple modeling taking effect on the arm. Feel like anything's broken? No, Izuku groaned as he moved his fingers, wrist, elbow, and then shoulder. Everything just feels bruised. Okay, then that tells us that this quirk is just too much for one solid limb. Izuku stared up in confusion at the underground hero, unsure of how to take that statement. We'll have to figure something else out. For now, go tell Ida to take you off of the patrol roster until further notice. We've got work to do. Deku, just who I wanted to talk to, Ida said as he rolled up in his wheelchair, smiling up at the younger man. Do you know when Aizawa will allow you back out on patrols? It's already been a month since he took you off. Deku gave a huff before shaking his head. I have no clue. I mean, I've gotten control of the quirk, but it's not perfect. Hopefully soon, but I don't really have any hope. He drooped slightly where he stood. I was hoping I could get back to patrols soon. He groaned. Ada could only laugh at him as he nodded his head in understanding. Trust me, I know that feeling. I was hoping I could go back to classes and train, but after I tried to take Stain out, well, I guess I just wasn't meant to be a hero. He looked sadly down at his legs before shaking his head. Anyways, I'm sure you'll be ready to go soon. All the better for it too. I'm still kinda unsure about this quirk, Izuku admitted as he shrugged. I was a quirkless hero, giving inspiration to those who had been put down for so long, but now I have a quirk. People are going to think I lied or something. Just give a statement about the truth. You don't have to give the full truth, but a version of it should work, the glasses wearer said calmly. The entirety of the agency class had been informed of his sudden acquisition of a quirk. It wouldn't have been very believable that he received this quirk so late in life to begin with, so the truth it was. Yeah, I guess. Izuku sighed before turning to Bakugo's office. I'll talk to you later, Ada. I gotta help Kaken finish the paperwork on the raids, especially as we finally found a lead on the main producer. Thank God for that. Finally, Deku yelled as he leapt from building to building, using his new quirk happily. It had taken a few months, but he finally had the quirk under control and was back out on patrol. Good thing you had Gran Torino's number at the end. Dynamite snarked from where he was flying next to the nerd. Old fucker knew what he was doing. Fuck yeah, he did. He agreed as he bounced ahead of the other slightly. The absolute thrill of this too. Is this how you felt all this time? He questioned as he came to a stop on top a high rise, looking as the other blonde came to a stop next to him. Powerful and free. You've always been powerful and free, Dynamite stated with a smirk before nodding. Yeah, that's how it's always felt, he agreed easily. Deku took a deep breath of fresh air as a breeze caused his hair to ruffle wildly. Man, the things I missed, he stated as he opened his eyes to watch the sun lower towards the horizon. Don't forget where your shitty origins start though. The blonde walked over to the edge and pointed down at the street. You were a shitty extra first, a fucking nothing, but you didn't give up. That shitty new quirk of yours isn't what got you here. He walked back over to a frozen Deku and poked him harshly in the chest. This and, he pokes him in the forehead, and this are what got you here. Don't fucking forget that. Deku could only stare up at the other hero in surprise for a long moment, making the blonde nervous and unsure. That ... was really nice. Are you feeling okay? He grinned in amusement at the sudden pink on Dynamite's cheeks and ears. Shut the fuck up. No longer quirkless by Tanio Tokuta the SWAT hero, Deku, that was quirkless, is no longer quirkless. In a seeming twist of fate, pro hero Deku now has a quirk, and that was the main reason for his disappearance from the public eye for over 3 months. He was training with pro heroes Dynamite, Eraserhead, Lemillion, and Gran Torino to gain control over a quirk that he had been given. Given, I say. Yes, he was given a quirk by another hero that was in desperate need of help. Hero Deku explained that during a mission, a pro hero was dying on sight from the amount of quirks in his body. He states that the hero didn't want 2 quirks and he hadn't meant to gain the second one, but had no choice in the matter. Hero Deku quickly removed the hero from the scene, and because he was quirkless, the hero decided that he was the best fit and so forced the quirk onto Deku instead. I'm sad that I'm no longer quirkless. That means I can't be a quirkless icon anymore. I can't encourage the quirkless exactly like I used to by being a symbol that they could look up to, Deku explains as tears filled his eyes during this interview. But that doesn't mean I regret saving that hero. He was dying and I could help him, even if I didn't understand what was happening. This also doesn't change my stance on quirkless. You are all capable and able-bodied beings. Keep moving forward and keep fighting for your dreams. I'll keep backing you up with all the friends I've made at Twin Star Agency. So as All Might once said, go plus ultra. Yes, Deku may no longer be quirkless, but he still has the heart of one. He will always be an icon for the quirkless no matter what, especially as he's the first quirkless hero to take the stage in Japan. We can't wait to see who follows in his footsteps and where Deku himself will go. Alright, are we sure this is the trigger-producing facility? Deku questions as he looks up at his mentor with determination. Yes, it is, but it's also the main headquarters for the League of Villains, Tsukachi says as he looks at the younger man. Shigaraki and All for One are said to be located here as well, along with 𝗳𝗵𝗄𝐴 and some of the Liberation Army. He sighs as he looks up at the ceiling. Have you gotten in contact with the other agencies? He asks as he looks over the map for the abandoned ski resort. Go figure, the villain would go and hide up in the mountains. Tai was the perfect place to hide and make plans. Yes, Endeavor, Hawks, Mariko, Edgeshot, Best Jeanist, Fatgum, and Twin Star agencies have all been contacted. Then Mount Lady and Kamino Woods have also been recruited. Tsukachi pulls out a file full of heroes and sidekicks that were going to make the raid. Do you think you'll be ready for this though? You've only had one for all for about half a year. He shrugged his shoulders at that. How can a person ever be ready to face off against a 3-century-old man that could murder me in his sleep? He questioned with a laugh. 2 centuries, but whatever. Tsukachi returned with his own shrug. We'll have your back, along with the other heroes too. It'll be fine. You say that and then look away from me as you say it. Deku glowers as the man begins to whistle next. I hate you, you know that. You know you love me. Like a boil on the end of my big toe. Ouch, going to kill me here. Good. Don't fucking give up now, Deku. Dynamite screams as he pops off explosions after explosion, knocking Shigaraki back and away from where Deku was facing that potato reject. Fucking keep fighting. I'm trying, Deku growled as he dodged another one of the black thread-like attacks. He faster than I thought he would be, he informed as he managed to fire off his guns. Real bullets this time, but all stopped by a wind blast. I'll come and get you back the fuck up in a minute. Dynamite had to prioritize for a moment. The longer he held Shigaraki back, the better chances they had at winning this fight, especially as they had managed to separate each head of the league. Dynamite, Tsukayomi, Pinky, Phantom Thief, Plamo, Raketti, and Tsuburaba were all fighting against Shigaraki. Fighters that could face off against him without touching him or getting too close to him and effectively keep him off balance. Shadow, Red Riot, Chargebolt, Real Steel, Comicman, and Long Wisey were facing off against Dabai. Tentacle, Froppy, Anima, Jevotten, and Vine were all facing against Spinner. Uravity, Creati, Earphone Jack, Jack Mantis, Lizardy, and Battle Fist were facing off against Toga. I Can't Stop Twinkling, Invisigirl, Cellophane, Tailman, Mines, Emily, Mudman, and Rule were against Compress. Endeavor, Hawks, Mariko, Edgeshot, and Beast Jeanist had all accompanied Deku to face against All for One. But they got distracted as 𝗳𝗵𝗄𝐴 appeared, and then several of Liberation had appeared next. They had separated off, forcefully, leaving only Deku to fight against All for One. I need help, Deku grunted as he took a hit to the shoulder, blood spraying out behind him before flying forward as the tendril is ripped from him. I'm fucking coming. Hold on, Dynamite hollers before turning to the goddamn copycat. You fuckers need to finish this fucker off. He hollers as he turns to leave. I have to help shitty Deku. Yes, leave the show to me. Phantom Thief hollers as he touches a hand against a piece of hair and suddenly disappeared into the ground, only to reappear behind the dusty fuck. Permeation is mine to use. He laughs as a dusty hand goes through his head and he slams an elbow into Shigaraki's face. Dynamite leaves knowing they'll be fine, hopefully. Deku, he shouts as he watches his childhood friend get tossed to the side like a ragdoll. He leaps forward in front of the other and sets off several explosions, stopping tendrils from reaching the other. Fuck, get up now, Deku, he orders. I'm up. The other complains as he forces himself to his feet. His shoulder is bleeding heavily and the lower part almost looks like it's about to fall off with how much skin is missing. Fuck, I don't know what we're supposed to do to take him down. Deku grunts as he snarls at the centuries-old man in front of them. You can just give me my brother's quirk, All for One says smoothly and calmly. His voice doesn't even sound affected from the fight at all. Then this entire spectacle could be over once and for all. Not happening, Deku growled as he glared at the man, green lightning crackling all around him as he stood up straight. This isn't even your brother's quirk. This is my quirk. I've worked on it, I've gotten control of it, and I'm the one using it. So fuck off. That's right, Deku. Dynamite smirked fairly as he spread his arms out wide, ready to attack. That quirk is yours, no one else's, and no one is going to stop you from using it. He gave a loud cackle. Now let's show this fucker what happens when you fight against the Wonder Duo. Hell yeah, Kakin. Deku yelled as the two blasted from their places and shot forward, slamming into either side of the villain, screaming as they tried to push past his defenses, both putting all they were worth into their attacks, but were pushed back. I guess we'll do this the hard way. All for One stated calmly as he threw his arms forward, and the earth seemed to follow his command as it rose up in a wave and towards the two heroes. Deku didn't waste a second as he sent a kick forward that blasted the earth away from the two, the dust giving Dynamite enough cover to blast forward and setting explosion after explosion off in the man's face. He screamed as he was knocked backwards, a black tendril through his thigh and side, but that didn't stop him from landing on his feet after they were ripped from his body. Fuck, he's got almost everything in him. How the fuck are we supposed to fight a fucking amalgamation of quirks? Deku faltered for a moment before shaking his head. I have an idea, but we'll only have one shot at it, he explained as he used his good arm and pulled out his new Nambu from the holster underneath his armpit. If I miss, we'll need to think of something else. Dynamite narrowed his eyes at the gun in confusion. Your shitty bullets didn't work earlier. What the fuck do you think that'll do now? Izuku gave a sheepish grin. Overhaul had 3 cases of quirk-nullifying bullets that were confiscated by the police force, he explained as he waved his gun a little to make a point. The blonde's face slackened in shock at the information and instantly made the connection. You fucking thief, he exclaimed even as a large grin crossed his face. You fucking maniac. I love it. Let's go. I'll distract the fucker. You better fucking get him good. Right. Deku quickly moved to the side as he got back into battle mode and followed the other, cutting off to the side so that he could get behind the villain as quickly as he could. He had to make sure that he got the right shot at the right moment. He slammed into the ground on his knees as he steadied himself, raising his arm and preparing to fire. Dynamite was screaming as he slammed back and forth, raging as he tried to keep the attention on him and still fight the fucker. It was hit after hit after hit. Barely any damage was happening though, and Deku could see the other starting to tire. He had to get a shot in and soon. He wasn't sure how much longer his hero partner would be able to handle the strain. Finally, Dynamite flew back and pulled the pin on hand of his grenades. Now, Deku thought as he went to pull the trigger, only for a ringing in his head to send him to the side, just barely dodging a spiked tendril that shot up from the ground, gouging a section of his cheek out instead of his entire face. He pulled the trigger. Please, hit, Deku prayed as he fell away sideways with wide eyes watching the bullet's path, only to watch as All for One dodged to the side completely. Fuck, Deku screamed as he got back to his face, ignoring the blood falling down his face as he shot forward to attack the monster they were facing, only to stop completely in stunned horror as he stared at where Dynamite was staring down at his arm in horror, down at where a familiar red bullet was sticking out just above the elbow joint. No, he screamed as Dynamite met his eyes in horror and panic. No, 𝐒𝐭𝐲𝐵. He made to run towards the blonde, only to gasp at the ringing in his head that made him duck underneath an enlarged fist, which gave him a chance to shoot a foot up and slam the limb with a cowl-enhanced attack. It shot the limb high up into the air and sent All for One stumbling to gain his balance back. Deku wasted not a second to run over to Dynamite to stare in horror with him over the bullet. I've already lost my quirk, Deku, Dynamite stated as he held up his hands and showed that nothing was happening. There's nothing to be done about it, but that doesn't mean we're done here. His crimson eyes looked back over at All for One, who had regained his balance and looked like he was about to attack once more. This isn't over. I know, but Kakin, you can't fight like this. Deku trembled as he looked at his partner. You can't fight quirkless when you've always had your quirk. Fuck you, I can too, the blonde said as he reached into his pockets and pulled out grenades and then held up the one grenade gauntlet up towards him. I've still got these in my brain. Besides Deku, he sent a vicious smirk at the greenette, full of pure determination and pride. If a quirkless wonder like you could fight without a quirk for years, then so can I. Deku gulped before giving a soft smile of his own. Okay, so what's the plan then? You'll have to fight him head on. I'll support you from the sides, Dynamite stated calmly as he pulled off the already empty gauntlet and threw it off to the side before pulling his other one off and into his hands. I'll try and get this in a position for me to set off and get him. I'll use the others to distract where I can. Got it. Deku took a deep breath before turning back to a still All for One. Kind of you to wait on us, he said as he shot forward. Well, Dynamite did just lose his quirk, he replied as he blocked a kick before trying to catch the other off guard with another tentacle, frowning when the young man dodged without even looking. A powerful quirk like that, completely wiped out, even I can admit to being a little mournful over it. The man moved his head to the side as a grenade appeared where it once was, only to grimace as it exploded right next to his face from the gunshot Deku took. He stumbled with a huff and shook his head in irritation. Don't think that'll work again. Though I applaud Dynamite on his unrelenting ability to fight, even when in dire circumstances such as these. He waved a hand that sent Earth rolling right at the blonde and sent him flying away. But I think we need to return to just you and me, boy, the 10th user of One for All. Deku snarled as he glared at the man, trying to figure out how he was going to take this fucker down when he was hardly standing on his own in the first place. He needed help, but he wasn't sure how he was going to get it when everyone else was busy fighting off the other members of the league. He was on his own. The ringing in his head sounded, and this time he leapt forward and under the black spiral-like tentacles that could rip him apart if he didn't dodge them in time. Keep moving, he said as he rolled along the side, avoiding one spiral after another before jumping up and over the large arm that was trying to squash him. He landed on the arm and ran along him, managing to slam a quirk-powered kick into that potato face, breaking that stupid Darth Vader cosplay helmet and sending it flying. He leapt away when metal seemed to form the man's shoulder to try and impale him, the ringing just about giving him a headache from how much danger it was screaming at him. You aren't alone, 10th. A voice suddenly whispered in his ear, causing Deku to blink as he looked around in confusion, not seeing anyone. Not the time, Deku, he muttered as he leapt forward again, following that weird ringing to avoid the attacks All for One sent his way. He even managed to send a blast of wind at the other when he sent his own blast of air, canceling them out. How are you predicting my attacks? All for One questioned curiously as he sent a wave of earth that Deku just leapt over before slamming a fist into the ground, sending a shockwave that made the older man stumble slightly and gave Deku a chance to put both feet into his chest and send him flying backwards. You weren't able to keep up before. What changed? Deku honestly had no clue, but he didn't care. Not when he was facing an infinite being of power. He had to keep laying in attack after attack, knocking the others to the side or avoiding them as he laid his own down on the man. He was dodging each of the others' moves like it was nothing when earlier he could hardly keep up. What in the world was happening? No time to think as he leapt up in the air to avoid another blast of air and instead sent his own at the man, pushing him down onto his knees. He also seemed to be putting out more power as well. He had to pay attention or else he could break something like he did during training with Eraserhead and Gran Torino. He couldn't afford to lose another limb when he was already down one. He needed to figure out how to take him down before that actually happened. Focus your anger, 10th. A rough voice said in his ear. Focus it and use it to aim at All for One. He had no clue who was talking, but if it had an idea, then he was all for it because he had none. So with that in mind, he focused on what the voice said and concentrated all of his anger and frustration at All for One, glaring at the man with everything he had. A bubbling sensation welled up inside of him, moving towards his arms and making them tingle. I can't see it, but I can feel the heat of that glare, boy. All for One chuckled as he put his hands in his pockets, like this wasn't a battle to the death. All of the users before you had rather might glares, though I never did meet the 4th or 9th users. They changed before I had a chance, before I could kill them and wipe them off the face of the earth, just like the rest of them. He laughed as if he had told a funny joke, which just pissed him off even more. The thought of killing someone shouldn't be something amusing, shouldn't make someone laugh, and shouldn't make them want to move on to the ones they missed. Killing wasn't some Sunday afternoon topic to giggle about. It was a heinous crime that ended a life and a future. This fucker shouldn't be laughing about it. Black tendrils exploded from his arm like an eldritch terror and startled Deku so bad that he almost let go of One for All. Stay focused, kid. Don't let it get out of hand and don't let it go. That voice barked in his ear, forcing Deku to take control once more. It was wobbly and amateurish, but he was able to shoo the tendrils forward and meet All for One's own head-on. It actually seemed more flexible, wrapping around the spires that the villain sent and snapping them in half at his command. What the fuck? He growled even as he pushed the tendrils further and managed to wrap several around All for One's arm and crushed it, bringing it almost down. That's it, kid. That's how it's done. The voice cheered even as Izuku had to bring the tendrils back towards him. That's Black Whip and the ringing in your ear. Danger sense is my own ability. A more monotone and calm voice stated. Seriously, what the fuck was going on and why was this happening to him now? We'll help where we can, but this fight will be on you, 10th. Well, it seems that you've reached singularity then. All for One grunted as his arm began twisting back and crunching around. Deku had made sure to really bang the damn thing up when he had the chance, and so it looked like it was taking a moment to heal up. I don't know, Deku admitted as he looked at his good arm, seeing where Black Whip had left some bruises. But if this helps me take you down, then I don't mind, he stated as he held his hand out again, sending Black Whip out to wrap around the other's head. Black Whip, I remember this quirk, the villain stated as he blasted the whip off of him with a deep breath of freezing air. He huffed in irritation though when the ship instead wrapped around his chest. He gave a sigh as if he was severely disappointed by a child disobeying an adult's order. Release me now or you'll be facing some rather severe consequences, boy. Yeah, I don't think so. He didn't waste a second as he swung his arm high up into the air, bring All for One right behind, and then slammed him back into the ground. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times before he felt Black Whip give a yank on him and he was sent flying off to the side, the quirk subsiding as he lost control. "You childish young man." 𝐿 swiped dirt off of his suit as he began to walk towards a struggling Deku. "You think something as simple as Black Whip will stop me?" "No, we didn't think so." A smooth young voice spoke up next. "Use this to hide," they told him, and soon Izuku was hidden under a cloud of purple smoke. "It can't hide you forever, but if you're careful, you'll be able to move around and get him by surprise." Jesus Christ, how many quirks am I gonna get in 10 minutes? He thought to himself as he got back to his feet and allowed the smoke to continue to fill the area. He moved carefully, using his training and stealth to move carefully. Though if 𝐿 could see without eyes, he wasn't sure if this smoke would help any. I know this one too. The 6th user's quirk, Smokescreen, would have been effective if I still had use of my eyes. But really, it's useless now. He gave a cough even as he talked before going into a hacking fit. Maybe not so useless as you thought. Deku snarked as he disregarded stealth and instead leapt straight for the man, slamming a fist into his chest and then a kick into his thighs, toppling him. "That injury you got from All Might, it wasn't just your head that was damaged, was it?" So you've noticed then." Deku ducked at the ringing and his head told him to. Watching the arm fly over his head, bulked up with what seemed to be wires and too many muscles. "You're right. Not only my head was damaged in that fight, most of my healing quirks went to trying to keep me alive from that blow, leaving my lungs and heart damaged from the fight," he explained even as Deku felt pressure on his body as gravity seemed to try and crush him. "But that matters very little in this matter as it won't stop me from destroying you." "Yeah, no, I'm not letting that happen." Deku growled out as he flared his quirk and managed to avoid a hit from the earth wave, most likely trying to throw him up in a way as he hadn't stopped emitting the smoke yet. It was obviously having a dire effect on the man as he continued to cough more frequently. He was even trying to move away from Deku. "I'm going to put a stop to you here and now." He ducked down as he pulled out the ankle gun hidden there, small and more compact, but just as effective at causing harm. Proven when he fired it twice and he could see blood leaking from the man's shoulders, and the huff of irritation brought him some hope at doing damage. He just had to figure out how to cause a massive amount of damage in one shot that would put the man down. He didn't think he could risk losing a limb by shoving all the power he had into his arm or legs to take a shot. It was too risky, so there had to be something else that he could do. But what? He began to bounce in place as he thought what to do. He needed power and speed and strength and a goddamn plan. Something that would help him take the other man out before he used another quirk to get rid of the smoke, which he did just as he thought that. Fresh air. The villain took a deep breath as he shook his shoulders, as if getting rid of a heavy weight. "Fuck you thought," Deku shouted as he flooded the area with smoke once more. It would take the other some time to start up the wind quirk again from the looks of it, and if nothing else, having to repeatedly clear the smoke bought Deku time and annoyed the man. "Come on, plan, I need a plan. You've been bouncing this whole time, do you feel the build-up yet?" A deeper voice that actually reminded him of Kirishima. The voice lacked the happy energy but held the same tone as him. "Look down and you legs 10th. Deku did just that and stared at his red glowing legs, confused about what was going on. "What the actual fuck?" He groaned as he gave one more bounce and finally felt the energy that had built up in his legs. "What the hell is going on?" "Fajin, my quirk which builds up kinetic energy for you to use. Use this to take out 𝐿 with just one hit," the voice explained. "Just know that when you use up the energy built up, it'll take a bit to build back up." "Okay," he mumbled as he stood up and focused on where he could hear 𝐿 taking in a deep breath to blow the smoke away again. "One more time, I can do this. I'll give you an extra boost." Another voice spoke, this one reminding him of Dynamite, gravely and rough and full of business. "Gear shift. It'll boost everything at this point. You'll only have 5 minutes to use this though, otherwise you could very well kill yourself." "Oh, okay, great, I'm about to die," he thought even as he moved his body, feeling it move at a greater speed than before, making his eyes widen. "Use these powers to take my brother down 10th. A tired-sounding voice said next. "Finish him with this one blow. We're all behind you," he said, and Deku could do nothing but grit his teeth and nod. "Go 10th. Finish him off." Deku gave a shout as he shot across the ground and slammed all of his being into 𝐿 with such power and speed that he could feel his legs just about give out from under him. He could feel his feet push into the other's body, push hard against his chest, break his ribs, and then rupture his lungs and made his heart burst. He slammed at a downwards angle, making sure that 𝐿 would be near him so that Izuku could finish him if he had to, meaning that he created a crater around them and buried the man right in the middle. He stood over the top of the other with wide eyes as he took deep breaths to pull in the air he was missing, ignoring how all of his body ached and screamed at him in pain. He couldn't understand what had just happened, staring down at the body of 𝐿, the centuries-old villain that had killed one for all users one after another for almost just as long. He watched the man's chest, waiting and watching for a long minutes at a time, unsure of what to think, especially when the chest didn't move. Not that Deku though it could, not with the ribcage completely imploded. Blood and gore was all over, just a pool of mush in the thoracic area, no sight of actual ribs in sight. The man was dead. Deku gave one solid sigh before his eyes slid closed and he fell back onto the ground, unconscious. He groaned as his body finally registered to him, aches and pains everywhere. His right arms felt absolutely horrendous, as did his legs, but less so than his arm did. About fucking time. And then there was Kaken, who made it seem like he was being a wuss. Open those shitty eyes for us, Deku. Go. He grunted as he worked on doing as told. There was no asking with Kaken, so he didn't even pretend that's what he did. J. He choked as his throat told him exactly how dry it was even as he blinked open his eyes. Everything was fuzzy, taking several moments to clear, and by that time a glass of water with a straw in it was very visible in front of his face. Take a drink, dipwad, Kaken ordered, and Izuku didn't bother waiting as he took a few sips before taking large gulps. Fuck, fine now. Yeah. His voice was still rough, but he could talk now. How long? He questioned as he looked the other over. The other male was in hospital scrubs with a robe over the top, bandages on his cheeks and over his nose, with matching ones on his arms and hands. Izuku assumed his chest, but the clothes hid them from his sight. Kaken looked rather well for having been tossed around like a rag doll there for a while. About a week. You did a number on yourself, almost lost your arm, and broke both legs as well. Kaken explained all businesslike as he set the cup aside. They were able to save your arm. If you had lost any more nerve connection, they would have cut it off. He explained calmly. Fucking broke both legs. Must have been when you made that fucking badass crater at the end. Yeah, he agreed as he shifted slightly before moaning in pain. Fuck, that hurts. He groans as he tried to reposition himself so he's not in pain. Kaken gives a snort as he hits a button on the side. Too bad you can't be hooked up to morphine like the others. You just had to be allergic to the good shit. He shakes his head. Only after the nurse comes and gives him some of the other good shit do the two even think about continuing. How about the others? Did they get the rest of the league? Yeah. Chapped lips fell when the copycat and Edgar Allan Poe pinned him down long enough for Raccoon Eyes and Air Pocket to knock his ass out with a combination move. The burnt chicken nugget got taken out by Icy Hot and some new shitty technique. Fucker was just showing off. Round Cheeks pinned the vampire down with the help of fucking Ponytail and earlobes. The Dog Whisperer and Frogger were able to distract the cosplay wannabe long enough for the octopus to knock his out. Invisbitch was the one that managed to get that fucking wannabe magician apparently, snuck the fuck up on him and clobbered the shit out of him before he could do much. Kaken gave a proud huff at his team and old classmates. Any casualties? He asked the harder question next, already knowing it would be hard for the other man, which proved true when the other's shoulders slumped. We lost a lot of what made up of 1B, the welder, glue stick, pony bitch, scales, the fucking punctuation, and haunted house. They died during the fucking battles and there was no time to get to them to even try and save them. Then we also lost Ed Shot and Best Jeanist and Endeavor himself. Well shit, to lose a lot of the top 10 heroes and then a bunch of smaller heroes as well. It would hit the country hard and leave the community uncertain for a while. Anything else we should worry about? There were some injuries outside of losses as well. Birdface lost an arm, Sign Language lost a leg, and then Frogger lost an eye from my class. Vine Bitch exhausted her quirk so much she may not be able to regenerate her finds like before. The fucking Beast knockoff lost almost the entire bottom of his jaw, and then the fucking Praying Mantis lost a hand. He ran a hand over his face. There's most just minor injuries from there, but those are the major ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Looks like a lot of PT in our futures. Izuku hummed in sympathy for the others. He was sure he wasn't walking in the week to come, but at least he still had all of his limbs and body parts. So we'll just have to make sure we're there for each other, I guess. I fucking already sent invitations for the B-list to join the agency. Fuckers better appreciate the shitty crap I'll have to put up with. He huffed and crossed his arms over his chest as he glared out the window. Izuku hummed in amusement at that. That was nice of you, Kaken. He yawned at the end as his eyes began to close. Go to sleep, shitty nerd. I'll be here when you wake up. The blonde settled into his chair, scratching at the bandage on his cheek as he did. Izuku agreed as darkness closed on him again and was soon resting peacefully once more. Massive battle over Trigger and League of Villains defeat by Tanio Tokuta. A week ago, a battle of massive proportions took place recently between the League of Villains and a team of heroes. The battle having taken place when investigations pointed towards the League of Villains being the cause of the newest distribution of Trigger within Japan. Officials wasted little time in putting together a task force to search for and bring the League into custody. A sting was put together not too long after this discovery and their location detected, putting the Sting team together in no time. The team was led by past Endeavor, our once #1 hero. He led a team of several agencies and were able to separate the League to better incapacitate all members. Fortunately, our heroes were the ones who won the battle. Unfortunately, there were many injuries and casualties among the heroes that fought in the battle. Many heroes have been hospitalized with unknown release dates and even more unsure dates of return to duty. But I know that I, as a reporter, hope that all of our surviving heroes take the time to rest and heal after such a monstrous battle. Thank you for your help and assistance in keeping us, the civilians, safe from harm the best you can. Heal well and rest well. More information on the battle and arrests will be reported as they come. A month passes in quiet solemnity. Funerals and then doctor's appointments and grief and sadness just passed around all over. Many of the heroes involved with the battle take time off and the police force is wrecked with trying to cover for so many missing pros out on the field. But there's little to be done until the ones injured and grieving can return to active duty. Many agencies close down to heal and then to try and hire whoever they can or to transfer staff to other agencies to fill holes where they could. Twin Star was one of the agencies that was currently closed. Most of the staff off while the heroes were healing in hospitals and rehabs to regain use of limbs that were injured or to learn to live without the limb. Luckily, Izuku didn't have to stay in the hospital. Instead, Kaken had invited him to stay at his apartment until both healed fully and figured out what they were going to do. Kaken especially. Well, what are you going to do? Izuku questioned from his place leant against Kaken's desk, next to the man sitting in his office chair. You have to tell them why you haven't returned to active duty yet. I'm waiting for the support gear I ordered to arrive. The man admitted with his crossed arms. Not to mention then I have to go and get a license and training for it all. It'll take some time, more than just 2 weeks to do. Did you get a new costume too? Izuku questioned as he tilted his head. He highly doubted that the tank top and combat boots would suffice after this. Yeah, I'm taking a page out of your book. The officer uniform but in my way instead. The blonde sends a smirk at the unimpressed look Izuku gives him. I'm keeping my fucking mask though. Wouldn't be dynamite without it. Izuku agreed with a smile. You going to do a press conference or are you going to break it to the agency first? I'll break it to the agency first. I'll call a meeting next week. A lot of it's gonna have to be on the shitty computer since most of my shitheads are in hospitals or rehabs. He sighed at that, placing his hands over his chest as he looked up at the greenette. Think you can fucking make it? Hey, I think I can make some time. Izuku let his head fall to the side before looking out the window of the office. It's still weird to think about though. You without a quirk and me with 6 now. That got a snort from the blonde as he stood from his chair so that he could stand in front of his hero partner. No fucking kidding. Pretty sure this is shitty karma for my crap behavior as kids. He stated with all seriousness. You already apologized for that thought, and I forgave you for it. And besides, Izuku gave the other a bright smile as he tilted his head back to look up at him. You'll still be badass though, Kaken. It wasn't just the quirk that made you awesome. Kaken gave a smirk as he leaned down so that their noses were only a breath apart. Well, I'll be an even more badass quirkless hero than you were, he assured. I doubt that, Izuku said breathless as he looked into those bright crimson eyes he had always seen his entire life, had always been part of his life in some way. You can be better than someone who was originally quirkless. Then you can't be better than me with a quirk that was given to you, Kaken stated as he closed that little bit breath left. Honestly, this was 1,000,000 times better than when Lemillion shoved his tongue in his mouth. Make that 7 quirks, Kaken whispers as he pulls away from Izuku, the greenette trying to chase him, only to shriek as he realizes his feet aren't touching the ground anymore.